What is up, everybody? We've been gone for a while.
How do you do this again?
I don't remember. I was actually
I had a hard
getting-
time logging back into StreamYard.
Me too. And they've changed their user interface in the back end of things. I'm like, what is this stuff? What is all this now?
Everything's new now.
Everything's different. That's what happens when you take what? Do we take 3-4 weeks?
I think almost a month.
I was on a 3-week vacation, and then you were off.
And then I was on a 1-week vacation. So 4 weeks.
So we are 4 weeks off. So sorry for the very delayed Superman movie review. Came out July 11th.
That's okay. We just had to take our time. We had to digest. I had so much. I've seen this movie twice, and both times I got a giant size popcorn. So I had a lot of popcorn in my system just digesting.
I know I was just there for Supergirl.
But
I
was so mad that I forgot to order my shirt.
but I was mostly there for the popcorn. I mean, that's
the popcorn.
Really why
I am sad that you didn't get to go see it in the UK and find out if they really put sugar on their popcorn or whatever.
So that
rumors were starting.
So that was a plan that was it was not set in stone. So we were not guaranteed a Superman viewing in England. But if I had, I would have been investigating the popcorn situation.
What are the toppings?
Well, how is it different? Is it different? I don't know. But yeah, so they do things a little differently over there. So might as well deal with different okay, well, we have a lot to discuss, including some changes or reverting back to things for Warner Brothers. So we need to discuss all of those things. And then we have a pretty long email, but I thought we could go through it. And if you send in an email about your thoughts on Superman, we'll cover, and it's not included in this week's episode. We'll do it next week. I just have a feeling that we'll go pretty long with all of our news and everything else going on. So I guess with having said all of that, I suppose we should get started.
Feels like it.
All right.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yes!
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired to discuss and review Superman. I guess you could put it in 2025 parentheses, starring David Corenswet and written and directed by James Gunn. And I see in the chat here from Trent C, he says, the most anxiously awaited review of my life. Have to know what Rebecca thinks. So I am glad you came to join us for this review. So I definitely will share what I think, but I do want to put, and I need to fix my green screen here. I do want to say that I know Morgan really likes the movie. I have a lot of, just to prepare everybody, just to get you preparing yourself.
Rebecca's coming in hot.
I have a lot. I just have a lot of questions. Is really, I'm going to try to find my critiques in the questions that I bring up. So there, I think we'll have a good balanced discussion. And because Morgan was so gracious to politely and in a good form review Man of Steel, which is a movie, as a Superman movie I love.
I had notes, and my notes was Jonathan Kent character correct as always. When we were seeing Superman, my husband leaned over to me and he's like, is Superman's dad always real nice? And I said, no, actually. Actually, usually no, which I thought was really funny. It just gave me an opportunity to dunk on Smallville's Jonathan Kent again,
and just Jonathan Kent in general. Yes,
Jonathan Kent in general.
But because you were so gracious in reviewing and revisiting a movie you didn't much care for, but I loved, I'm going to try to be respectful of your like of this movie that I have criticisms. I have thoughts, and I think there are things that a lot of people, I've seen people talk about it online. I was sort of following it while I was in England. I basically spoiled myself for the whole movie, but I didn't really care. And normally I like shy away from spoilers, but this one I didn't care. So I was following along with it, and I don't see a lot of actual thoughtful analysis about it. I don't see any real, and this will be a question that I pose to you, Morgan, is sure. What is the genre of this movie? What is this movie trying to be? And I think that's kind of where I need to begin with it. Because if you're not trying to be a movie that wants thoughtful criticism or analysis, do you still provide it? I don't know. That'll be a question. But so I just want to prepare everybody. There's going to be two sides of the coin here. So if you love it, you're going to probably agree with everything, everything that Morgan has to say. If you had questions and criticisms, hopefully I'll bring those to the table. But if you also had thoughts that you want to share about what you loved or what you didn't like about the movie, you can put it in the comment section. We'll address those.
Or you can send it as an email, and we'll read it on the next one.
Supergirlradio@gmail.com. So
we're always kind of around. That's the great thing about us.
So hopefully we'll voice kind of any and all opinions on this movie as we get into it. But the first things first, we'll have to get, to the Supergirl thing right at the top, because that's really what we were there for. But we were just there for Supergirl. And I did let people know that I wore it to the theater. So
I was so mad I forgot to buy. I talked such a big game and then forgot to get the shirt. I was like, this isn't just like a perfect encapsulation of me. I'm talking a big game. I'm providing nothing though. I'm not actually going with the shirt.
You can always still just be there for Supergirl.
Like I was anywhere you go. In my heart, I just was there for Supergirl. I'm still gonna get the shirt.
I'm gonna wear it to Dragon Con.
I was about to say, I feel like it's a great convention shirt because you let people know where you stand.
I applied to be a panelist for a couple of like Superman Dragon Con panels, and so
you could go and be like, guess what? Surprise!
So I thought that might be a good shirt to take with me to Dragon Con, just to wear it at every Superman panel I do.
You're like, this is about Superman. It's like, not to me. It's not in the world I'm living in. It's like that Laura Dern.
Anyway, so you can get that in the DCTV Podcast TeePublic store. You should. We have t-shirts, caps, all kinds of things. So anyway, before we get to talking about the Superman movie, which I know everybody came to discuss, we do have a few news items, which does include Millie Alcock's Supergirl.
It does.
We need to get to
the news.
On July 16th, James Gunn posted a picture of Millie Alcock dressed in the Supergirl suit with the words "Look Up" covered by graffiti to say "Look Out."
So, Morgan, I happened to see this while I was in England. So I was spoiled about everything that happened.
You were. I
kind of gave up. I was just like, whatever, fine. And really it was my fault for taking a trip to England when the movie dropped anyway.
That really is on you. You should have planned your vacation around the promotion of the movie, and not around when it's best for your life.
So, Morgan, what do you think about this first? It's kind of the first look at Millie Alcock. We don't see her face. Do we know it's Millie Alcock? I don't know.
It could be anyone. But I like it. I think it's really fun. I think it kind of gives the vibe of what Supergirl is like in the beginning of the Woman of Tomorrow comic, to kind of like set you up for what her character is like a little bit. It's not quite quite like Superman's character. She's like a little bit more wild, and I think it's fun.
Yeah, I like the suit a lot. As far as I could tell, the suit in the picture is a little different than the suit in the Superman movie. So it seems like maybe Craig Gillespie, the director of the Supergirl movie, has already requested tweaks to the suit. I think we should mention that there's like gold on the boots, which is cool. And I think she looks perfect. I think as far as we can tell of the suit, we don't see the cape or anything. It's just the sort of the Western wear jacket that she wears in the first issue of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. So we can't see the cape or like the back of the cape, anything like that. But as far as I can tell, I like the S shield. I like the suit. I like the texture. She's got the skirt. She's got the cool looking boots. And I like the look of it a lot. And I think the look out is kind of a clever advertising move here, because everything for Superman was look up. Superman is,
that's true, yeah.
Kindness is the new punk rock and all that stuff, which is hilarious given all the people who've given me crap about liking a Superman movie for the last 12 years. I guess they've learned how to be kind now. Anyway, that's just me being bitter. But Superman is seen in the DCU as the inspirational figure, look up. And so Supergirl is and always has been a different character than Superman. She is not exactly like Superman, but in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, she does represent a hopeful ending to that story. And I think she wants to be someone who teaches Ruthie how to do the right thing. So she's not like Superman, but she is a different character. And so I like that they've taken the different route with the look up to the look out. The only critique I have of this, and this is a nitpicky thing, but I kind of wish that the first look of Millie Alcock's Supergirl had something to do with the story. And made it look like a space Western. This makes it look like she's like hanging out in some sort of New York City alleyway. Like, what is this? Like,
spoiler alert, but she's probably not even going to be on Earth for the most of the movie, if not all of it. I think that's very fair. I like this poster a lot. I think it gives like a good vibe for her character and where she is at the beginning of the story. But yeah, it would have been fun to have more of a space Western. I'm hoping that they go there with a lot of the other promotional stuff that's going to come out as we get closer to the movie, because that was the comic was so heavily influenced by like the Western, space Western sort of genre. And so I'm assuming that the movie will be as well, fingers crossed. And I think that's really fun because I don't think that we get many space Westerns or Westerns. Really, it's sort of that as a movie genre sort of had its moment where it was really huge and then kind of died out. So I think it's a fun genre. And I think that in a superhero movie atmosphere where I think some of the critiques of the Marvel movies is that they start to feel a little same. They start to feel like a little same. You've seen this one, you've seen that one, you've seen this one, you've seen. And I think that people are kind of burning out with some of these movies. And I like that they're going in like Superman was its own thing, but Supergirl is going to be more of a space Western. And it's going to have like its own unique feel. And I think that that's kind of the way that these movies should be going, where they feel unique. Each movie feels like its own movie and not a TV episode, which is, I think, unfortunately, what some of the Marvel movies are starting to suffer from, is that everything's a little too interconnected. And you're just like, I don't know, man, I can't do another one.
Yeah, and I get it for this teaser that they posted, and it was like right after the movie came out. So I think they were probably catering it to how she's portrayed in the cameo, which we'll talk about when we get into the movie section of this episode. But I don't know. I don't know. I just kind of I was looking at it and I was like, that don't look like a space Western.
We better be getting our space Western.
I really hope there's a space Western component to the Supergirl story, because that's what I came for. And to your point about not a lot of Westerns anymore, there's not a lot of Westerns led by female characters.
No, I can think of like True Grit
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, and that was
the inspiration
for Woman of Tomorrow. So like you've got that one.
Yeah.
And pretty much just that one.
And never a space western led by female characters with a flying telepathic horse.
That's true. That's true. I can remember a lot of westerns. There weren't telepathic horses. There weren't dogs.
Super dogs.
So I feel like we're breaking new ground here. Sort of punching through that glass ceiling.
Really bringing you something unique.
Completely new. Completely new to the genre. I see Rachel has a good comment in the chat that said, it would have been cool if the first look was her in the alien bar.
Yeah, if they wanted to show, because they do show her drinking some sort of blue liquid of some kind.
Kind of looks like a slushie, honestly.
It does kind of look like a slushie. So I think that would have been cool to show her in some sort of alien bar. But they didn't ask me what they should do. So this is what we got.
They like you mentioned earlier, they're very much like Superman just came out. They're sort of going off of the Superman marketing, which I do think actually makes a lot of sense. It is smart. But I am excited for when we get a little further away from Superman, as we've well established on this podcast. Like, she's her own person. She is the better cousin.
She's the better character.
And she deserves her own marketing.
I can't wait.
If his boots are in any of her posters, I swear I'm going to lose it.
I can't wait for the summer of Supergirl.
It's going to be everywhere. I'm sure they're planning it right now. I'm sure DC is hard at work planning the summer of Supergirl.
I'm sure all of the Superman comic books are going to say Summer of Supergirl at the top of every issue that comes out. Every cover is going to have
every single one.
I can't wait.
What a time. We'll be feasting here at Supergirl Radio.
But every summer for us is the summer of Supergirl. So this is not new. This
is just how we live our life.
We are constantly just here for Supergirl. So at least Millie Alcock, we got to see the suit a little bit and got to see her in it. And so that's really exciting. And I'm just so happy that the suit looks great. I have no negative thoughts about the Supergirl suit. Millie looks, as far as I can tell, looks good in the suit. So I have no complaints about that. So whatever Craig Gillespie's doing in the behind the scenes of things, I have full confidence that he is doing
good job,
good
sir.
stuff. So I am very excited to see what they have moving forward, because that's kind of the movie in this whole universe that I'm sort of ramping to. The Superman movie was just kind of like, okay, how are we dipping our toe into the Supergirl movie?
Appetizer for the main entry, which is Supergirl.
So very exciting stuff with a first look of Millie Alcock as Supergirl. So I think she's going to be great. Well, we do have another set of news that we probably should share.
Incredible news.
It's super exciting news. Very boring, let's say. But it's something I think we should.
You know how we always cover corporate mergers here on Supergirl Radio?
I thought we should include it just so that we know how to talk about things.
I think we should include it because it's funny.
Because we talk about this company's products a lot. So according to Variety, Warner Brothers Discovery has unveiled the corporate names and senior leadership teams for when the company separates into two separate entities, expected to be completed in mid-2026, which is the year of Supergirl. The new publicly traded companies will be Warner Brothers Streaming and Studios and Discovery Global, comprising, that's a different thing, comprising TV networks, Discovery Plus, and other assets. Warner Brothers Discovery will separate into two separate entities by mid-2026, as that just said. One will be called Warner Brothers, covering HBO Max. Two separate things, I think, now.
Great.
Warner Brothers TV and Films, DC Studios, and Gaming. Gaming, very generic term.
Sure.
The other, all the games. The other, Discovery Global, will include CNN, Discovery, TNT Sports, Discovery Plus, and international networks.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes. Okay. I don't know that I'll have an answer for you, but yes.
Right now, as it stands, our former friend Max, our new friend HBO Max, our new old friend HBO Max, let's say. Right now, she has all of Discovery on her. She's got all the Discovery shows, 90 Day Fiancé. She's got all of the HBO shows. She's got The Last of Us, which I stopped watching after certain things happened. She's got all those shows. Am I to believe that next year she's not going to have Discovery anymore? HBO Max is just going to be HBO stuff and Warner Brothers movies, and Discovery will now have a separate streaming platform.
Discovery Plus? Is that
which will be Discovery Plus again?
That is what it sounds like.
I like that all the other streaming platforms are like, we've come to this point where we're kind of understanding that it cannot be profitable to have every single thing have its own streaming platform. And let's like figure out deals. Let's put Disney and Hulu together. Let's do this and this. Yeah. And HBO Max is like, what if we went in the opposite direction? What if we split our big streaming platform into 2 streaming platforms, both of which you'll pay for? It's the amount of money that some consultant got to make this suggestion to them, where it's like, what if we went back to Button Classic? You know, I just can't.
There have been some people who think it's related to, as Mind the Gap suggests, it was rumored that they wanted to merge with Apple, and I'm just mad at how Cartoon Network / Adult Swim has been gutted. I agree with that. Although Adult Swim has Mr. Pickles, which Mr. Pickles can go right out the door. I don't.
Mr. Pickles, you go to Discovery.
Mr. Pickles should never be viewed by a human being ever. I used to work for those networks. And so I watched.
And you used to have to watch Mr. Pickles.
They used to make me watch Mr. Pickles.
You had to stare straight into the abyss, and Mr. Pickles stared straight back at you.
Sometimes I would beg my coworkers to work on Mr. Pickles, so I didn't have to do it.
I can't watch any more Mr. Pickles.
But Cartoon Network, some classics.
Quality stuff.
Dexter's Laboratory. I mean, you can't get better than Dexter's Laboratory. It's one of the greatest cartoons ever made. But yes, so it does. Some people have suggested that maybe there is some sort of merger happening, that they're trying to sell certain things, and so they're trying to separate things out.
Because you'll find stuff on Apple TV with like stars that you would not believe are doing television. Yeah. And then you'll think to yourself, I have never once heard of this television show. How'd you get Helen Mirren's on this? Helen Mirren is on this TV show? Surely this must be a new show. And you'll look and it'll be like 2023. And you're like, what? So at the very least, Apple needs a marketing budget.
Yes. Yeah. Rachel in the chat asked the most important question.
Yes.
What does this mean for my adventures with Superman?
Ooh, good question.
I mean, I feel like this could be an episode where Flamebird has to deal with it.
I want the episode where Flamebird.
Oh shoot! No, I took it away.
Has its own like media merger where it merges with like another conspiracy channel, and then he's like, wow, these people are too crazy for me, and then he splits apart again. So it becomes it's like Flamebird, and then it becomes Flamebird plus, and then it's like back to Flamebird plus, and you're just like, what happened? In the background of me talking, just call.
Yeah, so I don't know what that means. I guess it means that you can still stream it on. It's
a Max
now?
I believe.
You know,
it's HBO Max now.
I'm at this point, I'm like, I'm going to call you whatever I call you.
Once more, it is HBO. To be fair,
you get whatever name I give you.
To be fair, I kind of never stopped calling it HBO Max. So this works out great for this one. I believe that My Adventures with Superman is an HBO Max exclusive. And so I would assume it would stay with the HBO Max portion of the divorce. I don't know. Everything's crazy.
Yeah. So we just wanted to cover a little bit of that so that we would be aware of how to talk about some of these things and what's happening with DC Studios and Warner Brothers and all that stuff, and how to talk about it in terms of HBO Max so that we know kind of what's happening, although I don't fully understand it. But it is.
I don't either. It does say, so in the article, it says streaming and studios company, which is Warner Brothers Television, Warner Brothers Motion Picture, DC Studios, HBO Max, and Warner Brothers Gaming Studios, as we all know about them games, as well as their film. And somebody's gonna write in an angry email and be like, "Actually, I love their games."
Actually, they used to do when I was working at Turner before they became Warner Brothers Discovery. They had a big esports. They were really They were real gung ho about esports. So I don't know if that's the gaming that they're.
Maybe that's the gaming part.
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't worked there in 6 years, so I have no idea what's happening
Could
there.
Be anything. Oh man, what a time you missed. So it says that's going to be called Warner Brothers. I love that. It'll be back. According to the Warner Brothers Discovery, that's in honoring the legacy of more than a century of industry-defining storytelling. Yeah, we know because it used to be called that is the funny thing. And like they're like, we're doing this thing. It's so crazy. It's so controversial. We're going to call it Warner Brothers. It's like, yeah, no one ever kind of stopped calling it that. Is the thing. So I would assume that based on that, though, that My Adventures with Superman is both HBO Max exclusive and DC. So it would stay with the HBO Max stuff.
And I assume it will still air on Adult Swim. Although I don't know. With Adult Swim and Cartoon Network, I don't know how that's working out anymore.
We'll find out. Corporate mergers are so fun.
As long as that means that Mr. Pickles will be shelved for all eternity and maybe set on fire.
You're going to write in and be like, you know how other people are like, oh, bring back this lost media. Rebecca's going to be like, lose this media.
Remove Mr. Pickles from ever existing.
I am here to save everyone from Mr. Pickles. Mind the Gap makes a good point, and it corrects me. Warner used to do the Injustice games, the Arkham games, and the Mortal Kombat games, all of which, by the way, I've heard of before. So that's on me. When I was like, oh, gaming, with like all my air quotes, like, yes, they've done a lot of very popular games.
Those were kind of big games. Yes.
Sort of. I've heard of before.
I realized that my Mr. Pickles mentions are probably going to have a Streisand effect. Where people are going to go look up Mr. Pickles.
Mr. Pickles.
Don't do it. Don't, especially on a work computer. Don't look up Mr. Pickles.
Not safe for work.
Don't do it. Especially before you go to bed.
We always get these strikes from these big strikes of Mr. Pickle interest on Tuesday nights at like 10. What's going on? And you're like, please don't do it.
Please don't look anything up about Mr. Pickles. Anyway, I don't know how to segue from that to our Superman movie discussion.
Amazing discussion.
Yeah, I guess we could just do it. So we are here to discuss the Superman movie written and directed by James Gunn, starring David Corenswet, and the IMDb description for this movie reads, quote, Superman must reconcile his alien Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing as reporter Clark Kent. As the embodiment of truth, justice, and the human way, he soon finds himself in a world that views these as old-fashioned, unquote. So I guess, Morgan, before we get into actually talking about Superman,
I do have a little show and tell.
Okay. Before we get into any of it,
before we get into
Morgan
that,
show and tell. Yes.
Rachel asks a great question. Anyone else get the Crypto Dog Bowl popcorn bucket? That's a great question. So I had fully planned on a spoiler alert. My personal movie theater that I like to go to is Regal. And I saw that the Regal had this really cute Crypto popcorn bucket. It's like a little popcorn bucket, and Crypto's like peering over the side. I was like, great. Already planning in my head. I'm buying this. I'm gonna get this 100%. I get to the movie theater. When I tell you it's the biggest popcorn bucket I've ever seen in my whole life, and that Crypto is like practically life size. Like people have dogs this big. He's like this big, and he's peering over it. I was like, I cannot in good conscience, where would I put this in my house? Where would I put this in my house?
But you already have that saw. Don't you have a saw popcorn?
I do have Jigsaw. And
listen, Jigsaw, that's what it is.
Really adds to the decor, if you think. But he's like strangely easy to put away. But maybe not the crypto popcorn bucket. So I was like, he was also expensive. He was like $40 for popcorn.
My gosh.
Get out of here. But I was like, but I do want merch. So I did get the crypto plush instead. He is small. He's easy to put places. He's not giant. And if he wants popcorn, he can have popcorn. No one's gonna stop him. He's a very good boy.
So,
and then when I went to go see Fantastic Four, I was walking past and I was like, well, that's just gonna look good in the home. That Superman throw pillow. And so they got me not once, but twice.
Wait, this was at the movie theater?
This was at the movie theater. I got crypto at the movie theater. He was like right in line when I was getting popcorn. And as I was going into the movie, I was like, stay strong, Morgan. Don't buy the popcorn bucket. And then I came out of the movie theater and I was like feeling hopped up. And I was like, you are coming home with me, sir. And then I went to go see Fantastic Four. And I'm like I'm walking out. And I'm looking over. And I'm like, I do a Supergirl podcast. I can have a Superman throw pillow.
I think
I'm a grown adult. I can buy that pillow. Like I was like talking myself into it. And then we went to go see the movie again because I saw it like opening week. And as we've established, that was a while ago. Yeah. So I went to see it last night. And there was only one Superman throw pillow left. And I was
like, it's a good thing you got it.
Who made the right choice? It's probably because it's been in theaters a long time, but I choose to believe that there was a real run on the pillow, and I just got in at the right time.
Those are some good purchases.
He is very cute. I think he's not going to stay up there.
So how do the lab cats think? What did they think about crypto?
So I have been keeping crypto safe from the lab cats because Beaker did go through a period of time when he thought that everything, like all plush, was like a sweet dessert, a sweet treat for him.
Oh, okay.
And he would destroy them and then eat the insides. And I just couldn't deal with not only that happening to poor crypto, but the vet bill that I would get from that happening to crypto. But Beaker's been pretty good recently. He's been allowed to have his soft toys back. He's
okay.
So I think crypto might be okay.
He might survive.
There's still a possibility that Beaker would destroy him. We'll find out.
Well, you keep us posted how it goes.
We're gonna keep him in the high place.
Don't put him on that top of that china cabinet behind you. We know Beaker can get up there.
Oh no, crypto, you're safe nowhere.
We've seen him alive on this live stream.
Just up there, just walking.
Jump up to the top of that china cabinet. Well, those are good purchases. I did look for the dog bowl popcorn bucket. Never saw it, and I was upset about it. I would have bought it.
The dog bowl popcorn bucket was really cute. And also it looked like a popcorn bucket, which is great. And it didn't have like a giant, like 2-foot dog on the side of it, which I thought was like, this is just too much. Also, the other Regal exclusive was like a popcorn bucket where it was like a glass case that you put the popcorn into, and then Superman's like on the outside of the case using his heat vision to like break. I don't know if he's breaking into the case or if he's popping the popcorn.
Oh, maybe. Now that's not a bad idea, but it also looks like he's angry that you're eating his popcorn.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. I was like, this one's too aggressive for me. I'm going to stick with crypto. I'm going to stick with crypto and this beautiful throw pillow, which is going to enhance any room of the house.
It's gorgeous. I think that is perfectly acceptable. And I think you made some good purchases.
Thank you. I'm very hyped because this trend of having merch at movie theaters, I like it. They used to have it. I've told the story before, but like when I went to Japan ages and ages ago, they had merch for like every single movie. Like movies that shouldn't have merch had merch, like romantic comedies. Like, what? Like 10 Things I Hate About You merch? It's confusing, but I like that this has come to America. Everything takes like 15 years to come from Japan to America. I like this has come to America, and I love that means that like we're gonna get tons of merch next year for the Supergirl movie.
For the summer of
Supergirl. I'm already put for summer of Supergirl. I'm already putting money aside.
Yeah, I'm
gonna go into that Regal. I'm gonna go into that Regal with like a giant bag, and I'm just gonna put it all in.
You're gonna supermarket sweep that.
I am gonna. Yes,
that's a dated reference, but
I am
those who
gonna
know
100% supermarket sweep. I'm like, quick, get me the popcorn bucket. Mike's gonna be like, it's as tall as you. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. Let's not maybe get our expectations up too high that they'll have Supergirl merch.
They better.
They
I bought
better.
this crypto for a reason.
They can just recycle the crypto stuff.
I'm just trying to show Warner Brothers, not Warner Brothers Discovery, just Warner Brothers now, that if you put out stupid movie merch for Supergirl, I will buy it. And I'm thinking like the crypto plush is maybe will get lonely by next year. And what if he had a Comet plush?
What if he had a super horse to go along?
What if there was a super horse for all my super animals? I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there that I would buy it. Rebecca would buy it. The chat would buy it.
Everyone would buy it.
Committed to buying it already. Already, Warner Brothers.
We would buy it. You know, it's so funny. Sometimes my coworkers will ask me things about Superman and Supergirl because they know I do the podcast. And one of my coworkers this week was asking me about crypto, like, wanting to know crypto's origin story. And so I was kind of telling him, like, there are variations on the origin story. And then after I told him about crypto, he goes, is there a super cat? And I you could probably see the Cheshire cat grin that came up. I was like,
is there?
Yes, actually. Let me tell you all about Streaky. So maybe eventually we can build up to the entire legion of super pets. That's my dream, to have all of them as plushies.
We got to get Lulu. We got to get a Lulu plush.
Lulu would be so upset if she did not. Did she not have one?
She very well could have.
I
wasn't in the loop. I don't think we were merchandising movies quite as heavily during the Super Pets era as we are now, with this high quality merchandise that I would buy 100 of for the Supergirl movie.
There should be so much Comet stuff next year, but we have not gotten confirmation. I just want to remind everybody, no confirmation that Comet is in the movie. So we're still.
I'm so nervous about it. I'm really nervous. If there's Lobo in this movie, but no Comet.
Oh, we riot the Warner Brothers offices.
We ride at dawn.
Yes. Well, thank you for showing your purchases. Very exciting. I did have a situation at my movie theater that I tried to go to, the one that's right down the street for me. Twice I tried to go see Superman, and they had a water problem. The whole shopping center area that it's in, some sort of water, something went down. And so every time I tried to buy a ticket, it would get refunded. And so I could never go. So I had to go to another theater. Although
that's so annoying.
This other theater though had better seats, the reclining seats.
Oh,
and stuff.
see,
so
I love the reclining seats.
Well, I should not have found out about that because I really don't like driving all the way out to that theater. It was
but the reclining seats. I'm lucky that my local theater has the reclining seats, because I had to go see a movie that was only in one theater that was kind of far away, and it didn't have the reclining seats, and I realized how much I've been spoiled by the reclining seats. I was like, oh, going back is rough.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe I'll go see Supergirl at that theater now that they don't have a water problem, and they have the reclining.
And they've got reclining seats.
So, too much competition for them. All right, so let's get into it. Why we're really here is to talk about Supergirl,
of course,
because that is what we are here for. And so since Supergirl did make a cameo in the Superman movie, let's talk about her first. So Morgan, what did you think about seeing Millie Alcock teasing the Supergirl movie with this cameo?
I was so excited to see her. I think I realized about halfway through the movie probably what they were going to do with her cameo, when Superman I think is talking to Lois, and he's like, it's more of a foster situation with Crypto, and I was like, oh, canonically Supergirl's dog.
In Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, she does say that Crypto is her dog.
That's her dog. We've been saying very good boy Crypto, Supergirl's dog. So I really like that when she comes into the end of the movie, spoiler alert, obviously don't watch this if you haven't seen it.
Lots of spoilers.
Gonna be lots of spoilers. I loved that she came to pick up Krypto, who she had left with her cousin. And I like that we established how much she loves her dog, even though he's a bad boy. And this whole movie has so much of an emphasis on Krypto that if you go and you watch Superman and then you go in to see Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, or whatever they decide to call
it's
it.
just Supergirl now.
Amazing. Great decisions. That you will come in already caring about Krypto from this movie. And so some of the stuff that happens in Supergirl will be more emotionally affecting because you care already so much about Krypto. So I thought that was a really smart choice. I really like that he is her dog. And I like that she kind of comes into the movie sort of as she is in the beginning of Woman of Tomorrow, the comic book, where she has gone off world to go drinking because that's the only place that she can possibly get drunk. And they already established this at the end of Superman. So I'm sure they will reestablish it in Supergirl. But also, if you've seen both movies, you'll have sort of the foot forward of already kind of knowing what she's doing. And I think you get the impression of her being a very different character than Superman right off the bat at the end of this movie. So I really liked her. I really liked her cameo. I thought Millie was really fun in the cameo, and just from seeing people talking online, it was amazing suddenly how much Supergirl excitement there was.
There was a lot of fan art that I saw.
So much fan art, so much cute stuff, so much people going like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for the Supergirl movie." And I thought that it was a cameo that first off, it was in the actual main part of the movie.
Yeah, it was not a post-credit sequence.
It wasn't a post-credit scene, which is how I thought that they were going to do it.
I thought that was what it was going to be.
And I think it built excitement for her as a character and showed like a little glimpse of her without making it overwhelming or putting her as like a footnote or anything. It was just like she kind of comes in, you're like, oh my God, I want to know so much more about this character. And then she goes out and then her movie is next. So I thought that she was introduced in a really smart way.
Yeah, I understand why they made the choice that they did to have her come in drunk, wearing the trench coat. They want to establish that this is not only a character who is different from Superman, but this is a different kind of Supergirl. So I and they want to tease the movie, and that's the kind of Supergirl that you're going to get. And I totally get that. And when in the first showing that I went to, I saw it twice like you did, just because I like to see things twice before I sit down and review them, so that the first time I'm just watching it through, and then the second time I'm making notes on it. And in the first time, in my row, there was a little girl who saw her and said, "Oh, that's Supergirl!" Like she got really excited that Supergirl was in it, and so that made me excited for that little girl because I was like, you can't, her movie's going to be better than this. So get excited.
get hyped. The summer of Supergirl's coming up.
Get hyped. The Super Horse is in that one, hopefully. So I thought it was really cute that that little girl got so excited about Supergirl. And I think they did, like Millie was great. I'm really excited to see how she grows that character. And I think, she looked good in the suit. And I did like the idea that Krypto was her dog. And I even got the sense that she likes hanging out with Krypto and has fun with Krypto. And so I enjoyed all that. I did, though, have some issues with the context of the scene, because I guess I was overthinking it. That's something I guess I do a lot. But I was like, okay, so in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, it makes total sense to me. It's outlined very specifically in that first issue that she's getting drunk because she turns 21 years old and she's struggling with survivor's guilt because she has aged another year. And she's thinking about all the people on Krypton who didn't make it. And so she's getting drunk to sort of kill that pain, and she goes off world to do it. She has to be under a red sun to do it. All of that is explicitly stated in the comic. And I never got the impression that this Supergirl from reading Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow was just like a party girl, got drunk all the time and was doing this all the time. It was specifically for that one context. And so I kind of, when I thought about it more, and I realized like this Superman movie, this is a thing that we'll talk about like, what is this movie trying to be? And I might be putting something on this movie that it's not trying to be. But when I think about like what that did for the character, is it, to me, it lessened the character, the emotion of what she's going through at the beginning of that story, and just laughed it off like, oh, she's just a drunk party girl, she does this all the time. And it also came across to me like Superman kind of didn't care about her. Like I got the sense that 4 was more concerned about Kara than Cal was. Like he was just like, well, she knows this all the time, who cares? And I just kind of got maybe this was just me, but I kind of got the impression that Superman didn't like Supergirl. And so I found that very strange. And I also was kind of confused about the timeline of the situation with her being drunk. All of this, nobody else cared about but me. But I thought I would mention it here. But so she's drunk on Earth under the yellow sun, but she has to go off world to be drunk. But then she comes back to Earth and she's still drunk. Like, I don't know. In my sense of the Kryptonian powers, like when you're under the yellow sun, you've like healed of that. Like, I guess in the Gunn verse, it takes Superman longer to heal from the sun, and he has to have like hyper. So I was like, okay, so she goes off world. She gets drunk. She comes back to the Fortress of Solitude. Then in the next movie, then she's going to go to another world and get drunk. And then that's going to be like, how often is she doing this? And then I started to be like, okay, I understand why she's got the trench coat on, because it's what she wears in Woman of Tomorrow. I get that. But like, why is she wearing that in the Fortress of Solitude? Kryptonians don't get cold. They don't sweat and they don't get cold. Why is she wearing a coat in the Fortress of Solitude?
If she was off world and she's still a little bit drunk when she's in the fortress, which she seems a little bit drunk still, then it could be that she's also a little bit chilly.
I mean, I guess you could make that assumption, and I can see how that could be the case. I don't know. I was just, the whole time I was like, this to me contextually makes no sense.
Yeah, I suspect that the Supergirl we're going to see in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, just with Supergirl now,
it's just Supergirl.
It's annoying. It's gonna be fun to Google. It's gonna be maybe like a little bit messier than the one we see in the comic book pages of Woman of Tomorrow, where she is, doing this specifically for her birthday because it's like a hard day for her. I think the Supergirl we're gonna see in the DCU is going to be struggling a little bit more overall versus on specific days. Like that's kind of the vibe I got, is that like she, I think the robot says like, I worry about her, and Clark is like, yeah, like me too, or something like that.
I don't even think he said that. I don't even, somebody fact check me in the chat, but I don't remember Superman having any, like, I think what I remember was that 4 was the one who was like, I worry about her. I'm concerned about her, even though the robots were not supposed to have any kind of like emotional connection to anything. So I found it.
Well, they undercut the robots not having emotional connection by being like, also Gary's a good name. He's like, 4's a good name, so is Gary, which is incredible. But
it's funny, but it's so inconsistent. So
it's like you should give them actual names. He wants to be Gary. Let him be Gary. Let him be great.
Look, that's Gary's a great name. So
the vibe I got was that she is struggling a lot more than maybe we saw in the comic in this version, and this is something that she does a lot to kind of like, maybe hide her pain or deal with her background, which is obviously very different from Clark's, where she remembers Krypton and she remembers, her parents and her friends, and all of that disappeared. I think it does make sense for her to be in like a worse emotional place than he would be. So I didn't have too much of an issue with her being a little bit of a mess at the end of this movie, and having left her very bad dog with her cousin for like a week while he causes chaos. Although if Krypto wasn't around, I feel like they couldn't have won the day, because
Superman would have died twice if
Krypto was clutch in this. So you're welcome, Clark.
So I didn't hate it. I just the some of the contextual stuff, I felt like it was sort of cheapening her character for a laugh, and that I kind of didn't love. But I think the overall appeal of it has at least gotten people excited about Supergirl, to see what's next, and hopefully to get excited about her story and where things go from here. I just kind of wish it was such a weird Superman Supergirl dynamic in that scene, and I just thought that was so strange. But the Krypto stuff I thought was good with Supergirl, because he might be a difficult dog for Superman. Yeah, but it seems like he was excited to see Supergirl, so maybe he's better with Supergirl.
I think it sort of explains why Krypto is such a bad dog, because she just kind of like lets him do whatever. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'll play with you," and like he's like crushing her into the ice. He like doesn't understand that that's not how you play with things. Whereas earlier in the movie, I think Clark was like, "I have to stop Krypto from killing the cows."
Yeah.
Like I feel like Krypto just doesn't understand that like some of his playing is not always good. And I thought that was fun, that like she comes in and immediately she's like, yeah, let's like roughhouse. He's like dragging her all around by her jacket and things like that. I thought that scene with the two of them was so funny, and I'm so excited for Krypto to be her dog in the Supergirl movie, because I think that is, again, spoiler alert for Woman of Tomorrow, the comic, but when he is in danger, I think it does like add up the emotional component if he is her dog and not like Superman's dog hanging out with her.
Yeah. So I thought the Krypto and the Supergirl stuff I really liked. And not just in Woman of Tomorrow, like in recent DC comics in general, like Krypto has become her dog. He's been in Supergirl comics predominantly.
That's really true.
With Rebirth and all of that kind of stuff. So it was good to see that that they have adapted that part of the Supergirl character.
I love that Supergirl has basically taken Superman's dog. Come and take him.
She's got the dog. She's got the cat. She's got the horse.
she's got all of the super pets.
I think it's great. I think it's the way
perfect.
It should be.
It's the way it should be.
So I think it's getting people excited about Supergirl. So I think even if I have my own personal issues with it, I think the overall delivery, I think, actually did what it was supposed to do, which was to point people to the next thing and get people excited about Supergirl. So,
and I think it does, like, having her be like a little bit of a mess in this movie does set it up for her to not to be shocking when you come into Woman of Tomorrow and she's kind of a little bit of a mess, like that she's kind of going off world drinking. Now they've now established that. Now, again, it seems like at least for this phase, they don't want it to be that you have to have seen Superman to see Supergirl. And obviously many more people should see Supergirl than saw Superman, as we all know. But I do think that if you've seen this movie, where she starts in Supergirl will be like, okay, yeah, that's kind of been established about her. She's like a little bit, she's struggling a little bit.
Yeah, you'll be able to ease into that version of the character. If you're coming in expecting Silver Age Supergirl, you'll get something very different. So I can see the rationality for it. It's just maybe not what I would have done. But this was not my movie, so it doesn't matter what I would have done. So I guess their goal was achieved by what they were doing with that cameo. So I just appreciated that she was in it.
And I was so excited to see her. As we got towards the end of the movie, I remember being like, okay, and then we're going to have the Supergirl cameo and like the post-credit scene. And then when she just popped up, I was like, I was so excited. I was like, I didn't think we'd see her so soon. basically almost the very end of the movie, but it wasn't a post-credit scene, and I will take that. I will take that.
Because people would still have to watch until the end.
They're not going to leave.
They
before
can
the
get
end.
up during a post-credit sequence.
Exactly. And I saw many people do that, and I was like, don't. You'll miss him hugging Crypto. Don't go.
So important. Okay. Well, I don't know if we can say anything else about the Supergirl cameo.
It was a very short scene.
It was
but
very,
it
very
loomed
short.
large in my heart.
But Millie Alcock, I think we're both very excited about her.
Looking so good in this role. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it seems like she's got the attitude of this version down pretty well. And I think if she can interact with a CGI dog, I think she's probably going to be okay in the Supergirl movie where everything's going to be in space.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a lot of little tennis balls on.
A lot of imagination for her. So
theater of the mind.
You got to have a really good actress to be able to pull that off. So I think she's gonna be great. All right, so I guess we should go ahead and talk about Superman if you want to talk about Superman.
Okay, so I have a question, which is, after having seen this twice, I wondered to myself, because we read All-Star Superman, and they said that a lot of this movie was inspired by it, but not in the way that I could see any like one-to-one. What parts of All-Star Superman do you think inspired this movie? Because I have kind of like my thoughts about it, but I was wondering what you thought, because I went in being like, oh, maybe they'll take this thing and maybe they'll take that thing. And I think it was more of a vibe than it was any kind of like one-to-one.
Yeah, I think the Fortress of Solitude stuff with the Superman robots was definitely in there. Instead, I think in that story, I think it 7 who dies.
It was 7 who betrays them.
Yeah,
accidentally.
so it was a different number of robots.
It wasn't 4 or 4, my boy Gary.
4 was a good robot who didn't betray any of them. There wasn't even we thought Solaris was in there. That wasn't even Solaris. It was some sort of dimensional imp, and I was like, what?
Okay.
Okay.
I thought that was my boy Solaris.
So it was not even Solaris. I didn't even really get a Superman Lois thing in there.
Thank God, honestly.
Yeah, the Lois Lane in this movie was way better than the one in All-Star Superman.
God. We dodged a bullet there.
That Lois sucks.
That Lois was the worst.
This is gonna sound terrible, and I don't mean to be a hater. I'm really trying not to be, but like, it's, even though I thought All-Star Superman was overrated nonsense, that Superman is really intelligent. He is a creep, and he gets Lois's DNA and creates a super serum for her. He creates his own world and becomes a god.
That guy's a weirdo.
He's a weirdo, but he's like super intelligent. The Superman that's in this movie, he's not dumb, but he's not like overly like a genius level intelligence. So I don't think it was like a Superman thing. There was kind of a Bizarro, but not really. And we'll talk about Ultraman, I guess.
There was no poetry.
There was no Zabaro. What if Ultraman became Zabaro?
Oh my God. He comes back and he's like, just read my manuscript.
That would redeem this whole movie for me if he became Zabaro.
Floats by. Clark's like, I'm so busy, I'm sorry. And he's just in the bathroom reading Shakespeare.
Maybe some of the Daily Planet stuff with the characters in the Daily Planet. I could see maybe kind of how the way like Steve Lombard talks to Clark in that kind of brief interaction. The Jimmy Olsen, I think, being kind of the ladies' man, is sort of there. I was trying to think of anything else. Maybe the Clark and Jonathan moment. A little bit. I could maybe see that.
So Stanley has my answer when I was asked. okay, like what did they take from the comic? And I think it was Lex.
Stanley said, I don't think that at all.
Lex seems similar to the comic.
We did not see Lex in the booty shorts.
Well, we didn't see him in the booty shorts, and I was disappointed. Personally, I was disappointed. Nicholas Hoult, get in them shorts. But
that's
I do think
sequel. He's going to prison, so that's where he gets them.
Yes, if we don't see that scene in the prison in the sequel where he's in the booty shorts and he's just like, "Can Clark lift, bro? Does Clark even lift?"
That's the only way you get me to see a sequel to this movie.
Nicholas Hoult is like, I stand by the booty shorts. But I do think like the motivation of this Lex was similar to the motivation of the Lex in All-Star Superman, where he's just like, why is he so great? Why is everyone so obsessed with him? I'm so smart. Look at me, you guys. I have to work so hard. He just wanders in and he's just so powerful. Well, guess what? Like I'm powerful too. And like the just like the jealousy and the pettiness and the hateration that the All-Star Superman Lex showed, which was probably one of my favorite parts of that comic, if I had to be honest. It's like, what's the thing that you like the most about All-Star Superman? I would be like, Lex in the booty shorts, Lex, Nasty Luthor, Lex. So I do feel like if they're gonna take one thing, it's petty catty Lex is a pretty fun thing to take, and I think that characterization felt like All-Star Superman to me. And I read I had this in my like open tabs for like a month, and I hadn't read the Entertainment Weekly article, and I finally read it this afternoon. And Nicholas Hoult actually does talk about he read All-Star Superman, and that version of Lex did kind of influence his character and how he sort of played Lex. And specifically, he mentions the prison scene. He said, like, the prison scene, he took a lot from that prison scene where Lex is like, I worked on getting real swole. Superman, he just walks in, he just is swole, but I had to work at it. And Nicholas Hoult was like, yeah, I got it. I got Lex.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really fun. And I thought Nicholas Hoult was great in the part as well. I don't know that I've ever not enjoyed a Lex Luthor. To be fair, though, I do think Lex is just kind of a fun character.
Oh, I hate to be this person.
Oh no,
I hate to be
like
this.
Nicholas Hoult.
I think Nicholas Hoult did a good job with what he was given and what he was asked to do. But in my opinion, this is just my opinion. If you love it, go love it. I'm so happy for you. This version of Lex Luthor is the most pathetic Lex Luthor I've ever seen in my whole life. The whole time I was like, get the heck out of here with this Lex Luthor. Stop it with this. Because Lex Luthor in this version, he can create a pocket universe. He's said to be able to replicate the Big Bang, which if people don't know, that's the creation of the universe. The Big Bang is what formed all of the strong nuclear forces, time and space, all of that stuff. Lex can replicate the Big Bang, is what they say in this movie. He is so smart, he can create a pocket universe and replicate the Big Bang. But somehow he also needed like an esports team of like 40 people to fight Superman for him. He didn't even create his own Lexo suit and put it on himself to go fight Superman. What version of Lex Luthor would not want to kill Superman himself?
You gotta leave something for the sequel.
I struggled so much with that. I was like, he replicated the Big Bang, but he needed this whole team of people so that he could yell moves. Like, he didn't even program Ultraman to be able to learn and adapt to the moves Superman. He didn't even program Ultraman. He was yelling moves to the esports team in order to fight him. I was just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen a Lex Luthor do. And then I have so many Lex thoughts, so I'm sorry. Just
it's fine.
To get him out here. He holds Superman in this pocket universe, puts him in prison. Then he says, I'm not going to kill Superman just yet because I need to hold him for questioning for the U.S. government. And I was like, since when does Lex Luthor give a rip about what the United States government wants him to do? Why is he obeying the U.S. government? Lex Luthor wants to be the president. He wants to take over the U.S. government.
Well,
I thought that was so dumb. Okay.
So Stanley does in the chat says he's a young developing Lex. So the characters in this movie are like younger versions of the characters that we're used to.
This is a Superman who's been Superman for 3 years. I will not allow that to be an excuse. I am so sorry. I struggled so much with the fact that like Lex Luthor's whole plot is that he's to my understanding, he's behind this whole Baravian conflict because he wants to create an excuse to kill Superman. And I was like, why don't you just go kill Superman? Why are you creating this political thing so you can get half of this country?
I would assume because he doesn't want to go to jail. I mean, I guess he could kill him on the DL. But I think he wants the credit for killing Superman. I think he wants to turn everybody against Superman and then get the credit for like taking down this big threat. Is it fun if you kill Superman in the woods and no one hears? So I could kind of see that.
But why does Lex Luthor need an esports team to do this? I was so confused. Like, you replicated the Big Bang. You don't need that. Then when he gets arrested, he gets like when Superman comes in and gives his big dramatic "This is what I stand for" speech.
His hope speech.
A hope speech. That's Supergirl's thing. Stop doing that.
They've all got to do it. It runs in the family.
Supergirl does it way better. She gets on camera to do it.
Yeah, where was his camera? This is why Supergirl's better.
So all I remember was like after that thing, like Lex has a one tear that comes down his face, and I was like, it's pathetic. It's pathetic.
I think
Lex Luthor crying when he gets beaten and then goes to jail. I was like, you're pathetic. You are pathetic. You're the worst Lex Luthor I've ever seen.
Lex Luthor kind of is pathetic, though. I think at the end of the day. I think at the end of the day.
This is true.
He's spending like all of his money to try to beat one friendly alien. Like, it's like, what if you got a hobby, sir? Like, have you tried pickleball? It's all the rage. So yeah, I think him being a little bit pathetic is honestly part of it. I think the all-star Superman version of Lex is also kind of pathetic. He's like sitting there the whole time, pumping iron, like drawing on his brows, being like, "Do they look good?" And you're like,
"Are they like Supermans?
Are they like Supermans? Is Superman gonna notice me now?" So I do think that there is like in most of in different Lexes throughout time, there is an undercurrent of being kind of the saddest boy in the world. You're like, oh God, just like make one real friend, sir, and don't make it our problem.
That's a fair point. But I will concede that the Lexo suit was right there.
The
Raptors had
it would have been nice.
Suits.
A Lexo suit would have been fun. I gotta give you that.
They were even like almost colored like a Lexo suit. And
we were so close. Maybe we could have had it all.
Maybe that's like a tease, like, oh, he's gonna develop the Lexo suit in the sequel, and he's gonna really.
I do wonder if it was a thing where they were like, are we having too many things? Like, is there too many villains? Are there too many characters? I think could be like a critique of the movie is like there's like a lot of people in it. And maybe maybe they were just like, Lex in the Lexo suit is just like one thing too many. So we'll save it for a different thing. We got to get a Lex in a Lexo suit at some point, but maybe we'll get a Nasty Luthor in a Lexo suit. You never know.
Nasty Luthor is the only way to make this up for me.
We got to bring in Nasty.
So I struggled a lot with this Lex Luthor. The only thing I really liked about this version of Lex is that when they're in the Pocket Universe, he actually kills someone. He's the only stake. Like, that scene is the only instance of an actual situation where there's stakes in the movie. A man has a gun to his head, and Lex is gambling on whether or not to pull the trigger. That is the only instance in this movie where there was like real stakes. And then he kills the man. And I kind of didn't care because I was like, I just saw that guy one time with Superman in some scene at the beginning of the movie. Like, who cares about that? Like, I know that sounds heartless, but like it was not developed in any kind of way that made me care about this guy. And I understand why they had that scene because it made Metamorpho change his mind about wanting to help Superman and all that kind of stuff. I get it. I just don't think it was developed enough. But that scene was the only time I felt like, oh, there's Lex Luthor. There he is. There's like he's an actual threat to somebody. And he made after he killed that guy, he made this threat like, oh, maybe I should go get, that reporter that's always writing stories about you. And you think he's talking about Lois and he's talking about Clark. And I thought that would have been really interesting. Maybe if he didn't like go after Clark and try to find his secret identity. What if he did go get Lois? What if he did go after somebody in Clark's life? That would be a real stake. But I guess this goes back to my struggle of like trying to figure out how to review this movie, because I want to review this movie based on like what it wanted to be. And I was like, this is not a drama. You could maybe classify it as a comedy. Maybe it's just a comedy movie. You could maybe say that it's an action adventure, but if I say it's an action adventure, is that like on the same level as Indiana Jones or Back to the Future, where I would treat those as real films? Then I would actually be able to critique it. But I don't know that it's an action adventure. I guess you could call it a superhero movie, but I don't know. This sounds so harsh, and I don't mean it to be, but the way that they portrayed the stakes in this movie, I guess I'm not supposed to care about it, but like I still kind of was trying to figure out, like wrestling with how to analyze this and how to review it, because there's whole buildings that fall down, and we're supposed to believe they evacuated the entire city of Metropolis. Like everybody is gone. So these 10 buildings, these whole buildings that fall down, nobody's injured, nobody dies. They have this huge war that's happening in other countries. Nobody dies. There's no injuries, no major things that happen in 2 instances of this war that included children that were like on the front lines. And so there are no stakes. Nobody is killed except for this one guy in the movie. And the only other genre I could think that did that was like cartoons, where like the standards and practices people didn't want children to see someone die. So they would have somebody like fall off a building into an ocean where they fall into the water so that they don't actually die. And that's the way this movie felt to me. And so I was having a hard time, like, how do I review like a Saturday morning cartoon? How do I review that? Because I can't say like it needed more stakes when this movie isn't maybe trying to do that. So like I guess I'm trying. I'm having like,
I feel like I've seen so many superhero movies where like a city is destroyed or something like that. And this one is exactly like that, right? They destroy Metropolis. They almost destroy the suburbs of Metropolis or whatever, where everyone's getting a boozy brunch and not moving when there's a dimensional portal. It seems like a mistake, but okay, we love our brunch. And I guess I don't necessarily need to see like a lot of death or destruction in all of my superhero movies. Like, in a Batman, a gritty sort of like grounded the Batman kind of Batman. Yeah, it might be weird if nobody ever gets off by like the mafia. But I didn't necessarily need to see like large scale death. And we did see large scale destruction, which at this point I'm so immune to. Every one of these superhero movies like destroys a city. It's like, how can that? We used to joke all the time about the property values in like the different cities in National City, because like what would you be able to sell your house for? Things are getting destroyed every day. Yeah. But like, yeah, it's more of the the city is destroyed, and they just kind of like made sure to be like everybody got evacuated. But yeah, probably maybe they did, and I don't know. I wasn't too like hung up on that. Like, I think the stakes are like, the rift is going to destroy the whole city, and then it's going to destroy
no one died. No, there were no injuries. there was a rift in time and space. And there was a literal like crevice and a hole in the city, and it was totally fine. Nothing happened to anyone. There's no damage to the building. There's no the local businesses. And I know this goes back to like reviewing it on its like what it's. I think
it has to do with tone. It wasn't like a super grounded a grounded story that they were telling. It was more of a little bit more comic booky, a little bit more Saturday morning cartoon, as you said. I don't think it was like grounded. Like if I saw a similar thing in a Batman movie, I think that would feel tonally wrong to me. But for Superman, I didn't mind it. I thought it worked.
So I guess this kind of segues into another aspect of this, because I guess it sort of plays into that same kind of conversation. Like there's a scene between Lois and Superman or Clark where I think the scene went on a little too long, in my opinion. But I thought the one thing I really liked about this movie was Rachel Brosnahan's Lois Lane. And I have a Lois Lane bias for sure. I have a Lois Lane bias. I will probably like Lois Lane in most things. Except for All-Star Superman. She sucks in that. She's the worst.
Awful.
but most times you have to really royally screw up to make me not like a Lois Lane. But I thought she was like the best character in the movie, in my opinion, because she was the one who was actually like thinking about those kind of real world stuff and pressing Superman on. I did not get the sense that this was a Superman who has been doing this for 3 years. This felt like a Superman who like just started. And the reason why I bring up that scene is because they mention that Superman flies that the leader of, was it Baravia? Flies him out into the desert and tortures and threatens him to stop the war. And I just thought, well, we're just going to be okay with that he, and I think that was Lois's point, that she was like, I'm not okay with that. And watching this movie, I was like, Lois, you can do so much better than this Clark. You can do so much better. I almost think this is gonna be a real hot take. I think if Lois started dating Steve Lombard, she would get an upgrade. I think
that's wild.
Steve Lombard actually cared about his writing. He was like critiquing Clark's writing. He was like, Kent, have you never heard of an adverb? Like his critique about it.
His critique was that Clark didn't have enough adverbs in his writing, which is not usually a hallmark of news writing.
Well, but it is
a hallmark
true.
of sports writing. Yeah. So he was like, Clark, why aren't you writing your news stories like I would write my sports stories? Which I think is supposed to show you that like Steve Lombard is just kind of like gonna be a jerk to Clark for no apparent reason.
Or does it show
that hey, big dog?
Or does it show that he really cares about what he does?
He loves sports.
So I just I got the sense that this movie didn't care about actually like it was only like surface level caring about the morality of Superman. And I guess I was also like on my vacation, I've had this book for forever and I just started reading it. The Superman and Philosophy book. Mm-hmm. So it talks about some of the moral quandaries of like being Superman, like having a secret identity and like writing stories about yourself, those kinds of things. And so it made me really think about this kind of stuff. And it was like the movie wanted to like dip its toe into those kinds of topics, but like didn't want to go all the way. Like we want to like explore what Superman is or means or what he is to be doing as Superman, but we don't want to address that he took a human man out into the desert and threatened and tortured him in a political situation.
Might be a little.
Lois said that. Lois said torture.
Based on what the movie presents, he pushed him against a cactus. So I think torture is. I mean, to be fair, we do have Lois saying, "So you tortured him," and I think that that's fair. But I don't think that like the movie wants you to think that he tortured him because he pushed him against a cactus. I loved that scene between Clark and Lois. And I think David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan have such good chemistry. It's crazy. I'm always really happy when movies decide to chemistry test people or TV show, anyone. Please,
it does
chemistry.
Make a difference.
Please, it makes such a difference. And their back and forth in that scene was like so natural. I felt like these were people who had been dating a while. I felt like they had like a playful back and forth, and then it got less playful. And he was like, "Whoa, are these like real questions? I thought we were just doing a bit here." And it kind of like went from there. And I like that we have Lois as the person who's asking him the hard-hitting questions. I thought that worked really well, and she was and that's what Lois Lane would do. If you're going to offer Lois Lane an interview with Superman, she's not going to just lob you softball questions. And I think that the dawning horror and realization on Clark's face that like he's now in like a real Pulitzer Prize winning interview with his girlfriend now, and it's not a fun time that like he thought it was going to be, was really fun. And just seeing the different ways that they kind of like look at the situation, where a couple of times he's like, well, you don't think that, and she's like, well, no, but like that's what people would be asking, like how do you justify this? So I do think that like when it comes to where he is and what he's doing, they do give a perspective on the other side of it. Like, hey, is it okay if Superman just goes into international relations and like takes a side? Like, how does that work? And I thought that, I mean, obviously that's not the whole thing of what the Superman movie wanted to do. And I don't think anybody wants to see Superman UN. But I did think it was interesting.
They did in Superman 4, A Quest for Peace.
Oh, that's why I have not seen that movie in a long time. But I thought it was interesting, like him getting involved in things. I think, and you would know this more than I would, but I think that he gets some heat on him in Batman v Superman as well. So I was like, oh, it's interesting that they're sort of playing with the same idea of like, what does it mean to be Superman when there are injustices in the world, but by putting yourself in the middle of them, you're tipping the scales. And I thought, that it was interesting that they kind of in the first, his first new Superman movie, that they got into that.
I guess I come from the perspective of they tried to have it both ways, but I don't think it meshed. Like they have Lois Lane pushing those buttons, asking those tough questions, but then they kind of didn't care to answer them. Like Superman never comes to a conclusion about, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this kind of thing, or maybe I should approach this a different way. Like the movie's not interested in, they have Lois asking the questions, but they're not interested in answering the questions in any kind of meaningful way.
I would argue that the movie's perspective is that like Superman was kind of in the right. Was that, if you see injustice, you should step in and you should help. And I think that's what he does towards he's busy dealing with that crack in the universe. But that's what the Justice Gang does, and that's what he was going to do anyway. Is that like he saw something that wasn't right, and even though it would make things complicated for himself, he just couldn't kind of like let it go and go through the proper channels. So I do think that the movie does have a perspective. It's just like the perspective is like, no, like he's right. Like you shouldn't just like, let this country get overrun by this other country just because it's like not the proper channels.
I guess my question then would be, does that make him the injustice Superman? Does that make him the tyrannical injustice Superman, where he's deciding for your country what is right and what is wrong?
I would argue no, because he's not deciding for America in that case. He's kind of deciding, he's stopping a country from invading another country. So
he's making a decision for those countries.
I mean, the one country did seem like they really wanted his help, though. they had a banner and everything.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was kind of cringe. That scene was kind of cringe to me. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of the moral quandary of Superman. I just kind of was struggling with the tone of it, because it seemed like a movie that didn't really care to really dive into that in a real meaningful way. And so I kind of don't know why they addressed it at all, because they could have just not, and it would have been, in my opinion, kind of the same movie. So I don't know. I just thought it was a very strange choice. But it did make me like that version of Lois Lane, because she was the only character I felt like was a real person. She was the only character in the movie who I felt like wasn't like a caricature of something. She felt like a real person who had real emotions, real feelings about things, and was, even though she like used way too much sugar in her coffee than any normal person would ever,
That's too much
whatever
sugar.
use. She was the only one who felt like a real, like a human being. And I think the one thing I'll say about that in terms of the pros of this movie, like if anybody should represent like a human being, like humanity, it should be Lois Lane. So I think that was the one thing that I came away from the movie was kind of like, boy, I wish Lois was in this more. I wish there was more Lois Lane in this one.
I'm never going to argue with more Lois Lane. I thought she was great. I thought, and I really like that she's really a big part of the reason that Clark is, or Superman is able to escape that, pocket dimension. So I really like that Lois saves the day. We often see a lot in Superman stuff that Superman saves Lois, but this is a situation where Lois saves Superman, which I thought was really cool.
Well, we've seen other movies where Lois saves Superman, and I guess I'm a little bitter because I've seen recently I saw a review of this movie on another YouTube channel where somebody said Amy Adams's Lois Lane had nothing to do, and I was like, oh, this is my villain origin story. And so some people forget that her Lois Lane saved Superman as well. So I think that's just a typical Lois Lane thing that he does.
I like to see stories where it's not always just Clark saving Lois or Superman saving Lois, but Lois saving Superman. So yeah. I liked in this one that like he would have been in a tough spot without Lois and Mr. Terrific.
One could argue that Superman really didn't save the day by himself.
I would say that Krypto mostly did it.
I don't think the day would have been, and that's another thing I guess that you could kind of argue with this movie is it's not really a Superman movie. Like he doesn't. Mr. Terrific does a lot of the heavy lifting. The Justice Gang does a lot of the heavy lifting. Lois Lane does a lot of the heavy lifting. Krypto does a lot of the heavy lifting. Superman does things. But I never felt like it was like a Superman saves the day kind of thing. So to me, that was a little disappointing because I think it didn't help me connect with this version of Superman as much. So I get it. Like he was dealing with a lot of other things for himself personally and all of that. So I totally get it. One of the things I also wanted to talk about with Clark and Superman in terms of like the writing and kind of the characterization is that one of the things I wish they had, again, this goes back to did this movie really care about this or not? I don't really know, but the only thing I kind of came away with, because I like to analyze story and I like to go through things and kind of really chew on it. And one of the things that I thought was kind of a cool idea that didn't really, it got explored, but on a really superficial way that I don't think that they could, I think they could have hit it a little harder. But in the beginning of the movie, Superman is beaten up. Krypto comes to save him. And he tells Krypto, take me home. And so Krypto, hearing home, takes him to the Fortress of Solitude. That's his home. That's where the robots play him the message that's comforting to him from his Kryptonian parents, and we'll talk about them and the change that's made to their story that everybody thinks is so controversial. So the Kryptonian side of him is comforting. This is where he learns how to. He even says like, "This is what does he say?" Which I thought this was very interesting. He says, where does he say it? He basically says, he says that the Jor-El and Laura message is why I do what I do. Which I thought was interesting because it made it seem like the Kents were not like his moral teachers, like in most stories. Like he was getting more of his, I need to save the day. I need to be kind. I need to do things for people from his Kryptonian parents and not his earthly parents.
I thought it was more like he took inspiration from that message. And as somebody who would like not have known his parents who turned out to be so not so great. I feel like he probably wanted to imagine what they would be like.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I thought was interesting, what I think the only like really interesting part of the writing for me in this movie was the idea that Superman goes to the Fortress of Solitude. He finds that messaging comforting. He considers it to be home. And then what I thought maybe could have, because I realized at the end of the movie, it sort of tries to show that like, no, actually the Kents are his home. and Smallville is his home. I guess that's what it was trying to show with like the footage of him like growing up as a kid with the Kents in Smallville. Where they got that footage, I don't know, because the Kents are hillbillies who can't work a smartphone. So how are they shooting? How are they shooting video? Anyway, so I think what the movie was trying to do was trying to show at the beginning, like his home is his Kryptonian side, but when that gets shattered, he starts to realize like actually my real home, my real parents are with the Kents, and that's a really nice idea. I just and I think it gets there sort of at the end. Like I really like that shot of like it revolving around the chair, seeing all that footage. I thought that was a really nice moment. I felt like I didn't get enough time with the Kents, and I'll be honest, the way they portrayed the Kents felt more like a stereotype to me, and it's kind of a stereotype that rubs me the wrong way as somebody from the South.
What specifically though, I didn't get this this perspective of them at all, which is
they talked like this, and they were screaming into the cell phone because they didn't know how to work it.
I just thought this is like a sort of an older parent thing. I've had so many experiences where like you're so loud, you don't need to scream into the cell phone. And I'm from New Jersey, so this to me just seemed like a universal parental experience.
It could be. I kind of the way they had the over exaggerated like Southern accents, which I thought was weird because Kansas is not. I would not consider Kansas the South. But I kind of felt like a lot of that was like a stereotype, and farmers are so smart. They have to deal with all this stuff. Like they're not stupid people.
The thing is, I didn't get anything stupid from them. I just thought that they were like very heart on their sleeve kind of people, especially Jonathan Kent. Surprise, surprise. Because she says like, oh, he's mushy. Like, he doesn't act that way, but he's like, got a sort of soft marshmallow center. And you see that in the conversation that he has with Clark later on, where he says like, you don't tell your kids what to do. You just try to guide them and let them be their own people. So I didn't get any kind of impression that the Kents weren't smart, intelligent people, just that they were like a little older and didn't love technology. I don't even think that phone scene really even tracked for me, just because of the amount of times, especially during the pandemic, where we had to tell like family members like, we hear you. You don't have to be louder.
I just got the sense, and maybe I probably won't ever watch this movie again, but I got the sense that like it was such a strange, I don't know, I'd really tried to give this movie like a real fair shake, but we got so little time with the Kents that I really didn't get a sense of like Clark's relation. Like there was one scene where Clark had a conversation with Pa, and it did not seem like until the very end where there's a like really trite saying where he's like, you are the choices you make, or whatever he says. I'm like, yeah, that was in Harry Potter. We've all heard this. Like to me, that was not like a new idea that Pa Kent was putting forward. But some of that at the very end was good between Clark and Jonathan. But there was that weird moment where like Jonathan didn't know Lois's name, so he called her something else because he's a country bumpkin who doesn't know anything. And then Clark,
I think what you're supposed to take from that is that Clark hasn't really been sharing all of his life with his parents recently. Like he's been dating Lois for 3 months.
Doesn't reflect well on his version of Clark Kent, that he doesn't I guess what I'm getting at is that the way that Clark looked at him, and maybe this is like a nitpicky thing of like David Corenswet's performance and the way I interpreted it, but it just seemed like he was like irritated with Jonathan. Like, it's Lois. Like he was like, I don't know, the way that came across to me was like Ma said something about like, what did she say? Like Pa said something like, don't be a stranger. And she said something like, it's been a minute since you've been here. And I was like, what is the relationship between Clark and the Kents? And so that's why at the end, when he's like looking at all that footage of like happy times with the Kents, it didn't land as well for me, because I didn't buy that he had this really great relationship with his parents. For most of the movie, he kept talking about his parents as Jor-El and Lara. And only at the very end, when he's like fighting with Ultraman, he says, my parents, as with the Kents. And so I just wish, again, this is not my movie. Who cares what I think? But I thought the idea of home was a really cool, like, thematic thread that you could have pulled. But for me, it didn't quite land as well as I think it could have, because I didn't necessarily buy that relationship with the Kents. And so I kind of wish that had hit for me, because I think that could have been a really cool thing that came out of that movie. People came away with the kindness is the new punk rock or whatever. But for me, the element of home for Superman is such a good thing to explore, because he is a guy who's in two different worlds and like split there. So oftentimes in a lot of Superman stories, he might have to make a choice about one of them. Yeah. And so I thought that was a cool thing to introduce. I guess what I'm struggling to say is that I guess I wish they had developed that aspect of the movie a little more.
I think Mind the Gap has a good point where they say, I took it as Clark realized he took the Kents for granted. And I think you could kind of see that where, he is talking about his Kryptonian parents a lot. And I think it's easier to create this idealized version of who your parents are if all you have from them is a message and they're gone. And you can imagine them being whatever kind of people that you want to imagine versus your real parents who have been there, every day, and that it is a little easier to take for granted. And maybe you should call them more often, but you don't because you're busy. And I think that that's like a very, I don't know, it felt very correct for like where Clark would have been in his life, where he's busy being Superman. He's busy at the planet. He just started this new relationship with Lois and he's really into it. And yeah, I think some things have fallen by the wayside. And I think that you're supposed to get the impression that one of those things is that he hasn't maybe been a great son recently and he hasn't been around as much. But I don't think that I took from that at all that he didn't love his Earth parents, just that, he had put too much stock in his Kryptonian parents and what great people they must have been and what, great messages they sent him to Earth with, without realizing that he actually had great parents right there the whole time, and that everything that he sort of built for himself has been built off of the foundations that the Kents gave him, not that his parents from Krypton have given him. So I do think that works for me as well in terms of like the home theme.
Yeah, I like the idea of it, and I think your explanation of it is a good and fair and valid one. I guess for me, I was trying to think, well, okay, so don't just be a complainer, Rebecca. Like, what would you have done to have fixed that for yourself? And I guess if it had been my movie, I maybe would have had a message that the Kents leave him, that encourages him, that he then will play when he's in the Fortress of Solitude or something like that. Something to sort of parallel the message that Jor-El or puts it in contrast of Jor-El and Lara's message. But again, it's not my movie. I'm not going to tell somebody who made a $200-300 million movie what to do, because I obviously don't do that and have
spending a lot on these movies.
No business telling anyone what to do. But I thought it was an interesting idea and a cool thing to explore with Superman, but I don't think it had the full effect that I wanted it to. And I guess one thing we could talk about is the Jor-El and Lara message and the change of the kind of nature of his parents and what they represented. I thought it was funny that the movie, like, it must have been 4 or 5 times people would be like, is the message fake? Yes. No, the message is real. The message is very, very
100 times.
Very real message that we verified it. All the scientists
verified it 100 ways. And then I would go online and people are like, that message is definitely not real. It's like, I'm pretty sure they went to great pains to tell you it was. You might not want to believe it.
They had to say it over and over again.
But what if it wasn't?
It could be a cool twist. So Morgan, what is your interpretation of the change in that? What do you think about that?
I was surprised by that change specifically. I actually did need them to say 100 times that it wasn't real because I think that it was real because I was like, oh, there's the twist is going to be that they like messed with it or something. I was like, oh no, they didn't. Which I think is probably, if you're going to make that choice, like to not back away from it is the more interesting option. I think if like halfway through the movie, it's like, actually, Lex messed with it, it'd be like, oh, that's kind of a lame cop out. I didn't know how I felt about it because I was like, oh, okay, Superman's parents kind of weren't great people. That's interesting. But then I did think about, we've seen many versions of Supergirl's dad specifically.
Her parents are usually not good people.
Who are not very good people. So I was like, well, it's not like Kryptonians are by and large cuddly and kind, as we saw in All-Star Superman with what was our boy Bar-El and Lilo.
Yeah.
They weren't so nice either. And so I thought it was an interesting choice. I was like, okay, yeah, I guess I can rock with this. I'm fine with this. But I was surprised that that's the direction that they decided to take it in. But I do think it was sort of playing into that theme of like, where is your real home? Is it this idealized version that you have, or is it the people who you surround yourself with? Are you human? You're human because you're around humanity. So yeah, the twist surprised me though. I will say, I was like, oh, okay.
I will say, of all the issues I had with this movie, that the Jor-El and Lara turning out to be, although I did have an issue with the fact that they said harem a lot in a Superman movie. It's like, you're saying harem too much. I feel like you can back off that word. I thought this was supposed to be like a more family friendly version of Superman. You're cussing and saying harem a lot. I just imagine like a 5-year-old going, "What's a harem?
What's a harem, Mom? What's a harem?"
But
one night for the parents.
of all the things that I had an issue with in this movie, that was not something that like broke me, because I have been used to Krypton now, and it's typically Supergirl's parents.
Yeah, we've seen this happen before. Rachel actually makes a good point that I had forgotten about. See also Jor-El from Smallville.
Yeah.
I forgot he was a jerk as well.
Oh, he was terrible to Clark in Smallville.
Not a good guy.
Mind the Gap also says Jor-El from the Mr. Oz story and Flashpoint Beyond also. So I think people who get upset about this, like, maybe don't know about some of these other iterations where this has been a thing. The only thing I saw some people pointing out that there is, if you make this choice, then you have to, again, this maybe is not something this version of the DCU like really wants to get into, because then they have to like delve into something that would cause a change. And I don't think this is the kind of universe that's like willing to do that. But if you make that change where the Kryptonians represent this thing, what do you do about the Superman S shield? Because that's representing his house. That's representing his family. So then you have to reconcile, okay, my Kryptonian parents wanted me to come to Earth and rule over Earth and create a bunch of harems and do all and like kill anybody who opposed me. And I'm wearing their the symbol of their family. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, that's a valid criticism of that storytelling choice.
But I mean, it is also, he is also of the House of L, and so that's like, you know what? I'm taking it back.
I'm taking it back, baby.
This is for me.
I'm changing it. I'm making it good now. Because that also has an effect on Supergirl, because it's the same S shield for her. So I think but I don't think this universe.
And I think we'll see more of the Kryptonians in Supergirl. So we'll get more of a sense of like what the actual like culture was like and things like that, because Supergirl obviously remembers Krypton. She remembers her family, she remembers her friends.
Maybe that's why she's
the culture.
Maybe that's why she's drinking a lot.
That's why she's drinking so much.
My family was a bunch of jerks who really like to say the word harem.
I was supposed to have a harem on this planet.
No wonder she's been drinking so much.
Exactly.
That makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
That actually puts it in context. And I actually kind of like the idea that in the Supergirl movie, if Zor-El and Allura are portrayed as like good characters, that's a nice flip. That like Supergirl would have good Kryptonian
That actually would
parents.
be incredible. Now I feel like, honestly, I wouldn't actually be surprised if that's the direction that they go, because like if you have all of Krypton be kind of terrible, then it's like, yeah, I mean, I understand why Kara is sad that her society is gone, but like, be realistic, girl. It kind of sucked.
Yeah,
but
we're not missing these people.
are we missing them? They're not great.
They kind of suck.
But I could see absolutely that they twist it where Superman's parents are not great and her parents are nice, because usually it's the opposite, although not always. Again, sometimes Jor-El's a tricky one. Sometimes he's not so great either. And you know, in the Crypto comic, they sent their dog into space.
I mean, as an experiment.
Just in a pod as an experiment.
They didn't know if he was going to survive.
I feel like I was ready to accept they were villains. Weren't we, Crypto?
Yeah, so that was like one of the things that I was like, why are people upset about this?
Yeah,
like, I'm upset about other things, but not this.
I thought there was like a lot of discourse on that where I was like, I mean, it's not like this is the first time they've ever been a little bit questionable, let's be honest.
Okay, so I know we're gonna go long on this. I think
we
we're gonna have
to go long.
We were gonna go long. I think what we might have to do, we can go for maybe another 30 minutes or so, and then depending on how we do, if we don't get through things, we can maybe do a 2-parter, and we'll have to get to feedback next time. I think that's gonna be too long.
Okay,
but let's try to see if we can get through as much as we can. Okay. Some questions I had about Superman is that they must have said the word metahumans 5 or 6 times.
I did have a lot of questions about the metahuman of it all.
So I wanted to just verify, because have I been understanding the concept of a metahuman wrong this whole time? Because they kept talking about metahumans when they were talking about like Superman and the Justice Gang. And I was like, none of these people are metahumans. Why are you using Am I misunderstanding that word, or are you misunderstanding that?
I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure. I was a little confused about the metahuman aspect of it. I think the idea is that like metahumans have existed for a very long time in this world. And so like super people are not surprising to them because there are just sort of metahumans around. I think I saw somewhere in some interview where they were like, if you, I can't remember, maybe it was the EW interview that I read where they were saying like the metahuman thing would be like, if you were walking down the street and you saw like a shark man, you would flip out and start crying because you'd be like, what's happening? But if like the people in this universe saw a shark man, it would be like seeing Paul McCartney on the sidewalk. It'd be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's like they're kind of used to these people who are more, have powers or look a little different or stuff like that. So I don't know, because obviously like Green Lantern's not like a metahuman, is he?
So here's how I understand.
I'm not an expert on Green Lantern, as we've all established. I don't care for him.
You notoriously love Green Lantern.
I notoriously do not care for Green Lantern, but I don't think he's a metahuman. I could be wrong.
So this is how I've always understood metahumans for all of the time that I've been a DC fan. A metahuman is like the Flash or Black Canary. These people who are human characters who happen to get superpowers. So like you mentioned King Shark, maybe King Shark. Metamorpho would have been probably a metahuman. But I was like, Green Lantern, not a metahuman. A human guy with like a cool ring where he does stuff.
Yeah.
Hawk Girl, traditionally not a metahuman.
Not a metahuman.
She's usually an alien from another planet.
She's got a lot going on.
We need to talk about Hawk Girl.
She didn't make a single cup of coffee, and I was insulted.
And she could have, because she was reading the newspaper. She was reading the newspaper.
So close to making a cup of coffee.
She could have had a cup of coffee with that.
Maybe this is her character journey. We're just at the beginning of it.
But Hawk Girl, traditionally not a metahuman. Superman, definitely not a metahuman.
No,
he's an alien.
He's an alien. And they do go to great pains to say he is an alien.
So
they're well aware that he's not
every time they talked about metahumans, in my head I was like, literally none of these people are metahumans. What are you talking about?
I think, so I see Mind the Gap says Task Force X, Creature Commandos, and Justice Gang all exist in this universe. So I think they use metahuman as a term for not a normal human being. So that was kind of, the more I thought about it, that was kind of the vibe that, because I was also confused by this. This is not just you. I was like, we're using metahumans a lot.
But that's making words not have meaning anymore. Like if you use them for everything, then it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think it's just like the people in this universe think everything. Every person who's got superpowers or is not, a normal human being is like a metahuman, just kind of catch-all term that they use. Even though, as we know, a lot of these characters are just straight up not metahumans as we understand them in the DC universe. But my guess is that they didn't want to get into the small nuances of who is and isn't a metahuman. I'd argue maybe we don't bring up the metahuman thing.
Just don't say metahuman.
It could
don't say it 5 times in the movie.
It could be like people with powers exist, and we all acknowledge that. And like, cool. Yeah, I was confused by that too, because I was like, yeah, I remember there was like a lot of metahuman talk on The Flash, but I don't think any of these people would have been included in this.
And The Flash was a metahuman. So,
yes. He was a metahuman.
Okay, I just
not
wanted
Green Lantern.
I just wanted to, and the whole concept of the Flash TV show was that they created metahumans with the particle accelerator and all that.
Yeah.
So that was like the whole point of the Flash, is that everyone kind of became a metahuman because of the crazy experiment that they did. Okay. So I wanted to clear that up for me, because I thought I was like taking crazy pills. I was like,
no.
Have I misunderstood metahumans in DC?
Was very confusing. I think what they were going for was like the idea of people having superpowers isn't a new concept to the people of this world. People with superpowers just kind of exist. Only they called them metahumans, and that was confusing.
Okay.
So Baggy the Panther says, according to Gunn, metahumans are human-like beings with extraordinary powers. That's the definition they're using in the new DCU. That is confusing, because in most of the cases, metahuman is like a specific kind.
It's a specific kind of person with superpowers.
But sure.
I guess we're just redefining terms now. That's what we're doing.
We're just getting loosey-goosey with the metahumans.
Okay, all right. So here's another thing that I wanted to ask you about regarding Superman. I'm trying to like go through my questions that I have. So even my mom, when I took my mom to see this movie, after the movie was over, she was like, boy, Superman got beat up a lot. And I did start to have a question, which I'm fine. Like, if you want to like kick him in the teeth, make him a stronger character, I'm fine with that. I don't really care. But one thing I did start to kind of wonder about was, how invulnerable is this Superman? Because he needed a high dose of yellow sun to be able to fix all of his broken bones, when traditionally, like, Superman just existing under the sun would be able to heal fairly quickly without like needing additional help. And I did see a James Gunn quote where he talked about the idea of lessening Superman's powers. He said, quote, there are some writers in the comics like Grant Morrison who took the idea of an all-powerful Superman and told great stories with it. But for me, as a child, the reason I liked Batman better than Superman was because Superman was just too strong at times. We're building a whole universe of characters. I didn't want to have one guy who is so much stronger than anybody else that a guy with a bow and arrow didn't matter, unquote. And my problem with that idea is that my question to James Gunn would be, are we decreasing the strength of Superman and Supergirl to make Green Arrow feel better? Is that what we're doing?
Oliver Queen?
Is that what we're doing here? Why do we care how Green Arrow feels? We just want to be so inclusive to Green Arrow that we're gonna make Superman and Supergirl weaker.
Haven't we cared about Oliver Queen enough?
Maybe too much. I feel like
too much.
He's over deserving in how much we have cared about him in the past.
That's so funny.
I
mean, I do kind of see that they. but I would argue, I guess my argument would be like he mostly got beat up by him by like a version of himself,
right?
In Ultraman, like we see him at the beginning after a fight with Ultraman, and I think he gets it most bad when he's fighting Ultraman, who is like based who Lex creates from his DNA.
Right.
So I don't know if it's that he's like less powerful or if that he is now fighting somebody who is exactly as powerful as he is. But yeah, no, I think that's a reasonable critique. I hope that they don't make him too much less powerful. I do think that sometimes you're like, yeah, how would anybody ever, fight Superman? And I think that they came up with some clever ways of doing it in this movie where it made sense to me, because it's like, okay, well, he's fighting somebody with exactly his powers, or okay, there's kryptonite. The couple of times that he got like seriously hurt.
But then they said in the movie that other instances, like all other instances of kryptonite, are gone, right? So you're saying,
it seems like they don't have like a lot of kryptonite around.
So I guess my question, if I ever got to interview James Gunn, I would ask him, so you want to decrease Superman's strength, but you removed the only weakness he has? Like, how is that going to make him weaker?
There should be kryptonite just all over the place.
I can't reconcile that in my brain as to, and then
somewhere there's a Bruce Wayne just like petting his kryptonite.
You thought it was all gone.
It's not all gone. Then he opens the door and there's just like a whole room of kryptonite, and he laughs.
There's a whole room dedicated in the Batcave, just loads of shelves of kryptonite.
He and Wonder Woman are like cheersing with kryptonite goblets.
That's where all the kryptonite went in the DCU.
That's true.
That's actually character correct, I think.
It is.
So I guess that also kind of played out in some of the things that we saw, where like there's a kaiju that gets created and unleashed on the city, and Superman can hold him up a little bit, but he never like picks him up and carries him off. So it's like he's strong enough, I guess, to lift up the kaiju's foot, but he never like. The whole time I was watching that, I was like, pick him up, like remove him from the situation. You're Superman. You should be able to like lift him up. So I guess I was kind of struggling with that, just because super strength and invulnerability are such big powers in Superman's skill set, which then also translates to Supergirl. So I wonder what you thought about the invulnerability of all of that, where like Superman crashes into the ground, and then he has to have that guy who like we're supposed to care about because we saw him for 5 seconds on screen, and he gets him up, like, oh, I'm this human man like helping Superman up, and I was like, why does Superman need help to get
I felt like it was more of like a
like a nice gesture.
You can do it, guy. We got you.
To me, it was like, so you've already made a 30 Rock reference. In season 7 of 30 Rock, when Jack Donaghy is trying to tank NBC, he creates the greatest TV show known to man called God Cop. And there's a moment in God Cop where he says something about, like, God says something about, I'm gonna learn something, and he's like, why is God learning anything? That's the way I feel about the strength thing. It's like, why is he having to get help? Why does Superman need help getting up? So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about, like, I understand the choice of like wanting to make the world make sense, to like have a character like Green Arrow, but Green Arrow is specifically in a city where like there is no Superman. Star City, he is the guy.
Also, so, his money is his superpower. Clark doesn't have $1 billion.
And his political influence. And he's usually around Black Canary, who makes him cooler.
Yeah. It makes him seem really cool. So I mean, that's why Clark has Lois around, though, I think. So
true.
Same difference, really.
Yeah.
Same purpose.
So I guess in my mind, I don't think you need to lessen other characters to boost, especially Green Arrow. Green Arrow.
We've done enough for Green Arrow, I think.
I don't think you need
we as a society have done enough for Green Arrow.
I don't know. I don't like the idea of like decreasing their strength to lift him up. I think they can all exist in that same world.
Yeah, I thought that I didn't think that this version of Superman was like substantially less powerful. I mean, maybe than some other versions, but I think he was like within the realm of like a Superman that I would expect. I wasn't like, oh, like he doesn't seem powerful at all. He seemed pretty powerful to me. Just that the people that he was fighting were like equally as powerful in some cases, or they had, kryptonite or something like that that would, put him out of commission. So
Yeah.
and when he has the kryptonite poisoning, he like has to kind of go back to rest up at the Kent farm. And I think that the one way that he's like maybe less powerful is, I would say, it seemed like he needed a little bit more time to heal up from some of the battles. But as the movie kind of starts out by being like, this is the first fight he's ever lost, is how the movie starts.
So he's been strong.
So he's never lost a battle until he basically had to battle himself. So so he kind of doesn't know how to do it. He's like, I lost ? So I feel like he's not used to getting a beat down from anybody. So maybe that also plays a part in it as well. It's like he's like doesn't know how to get beat up really, because he's never been.
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure how to reconcile that kind of thing. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about, because I know we have different interests or different takes on these kinds of movies, in terms of the humor that's injected into it. It's more of an MCU style humor, I would say, kind of that James Gunn school of humor.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of humor that made me quit the MCU, specifically with the first Ant-Man movie, where Evangeline Lilly's character had this like really emotional scene about like her dead mother, and then Scott comes in and like cracks a joke at the end of it, and I was like, how am I supposed to get invested in the story when you're just cracking jokes in places where you don't need to crack jokes? So I like quit the MCU after it. And my life was better for it, just for me personally, not having to like
You've
get
missed
upset
so
about
many movies.
I miss so many movies, and I don't care. I don't care. It's the best part.
You're free.
But if people love them, again, it's great. It's not for me. But I guess the reason I bring it up in terms of Superman is that there were some instances where I was kind of like, was there a need for a joke here? And I'm thinking specifically with the scene between Superman and Lois in, I guess, his apartment. I don't know. It looked like a really nice place. So I was like, okay, all right.
Like, where'd he get this money? Look at how Lois is living.
or was it Lois's apartment? I don't know. But anyway, he comes into this apartment. He sits down. This is where we get that picture where he looks like put off, that he has to put his boots on. But not only is there like a background joke of the Justice League fighting, or the Justice Gang fighting this dimensional imp is what they called it. There's a background joke there, and then there's a joke where Lois gives him cocoa, and then he says, oh, actually, this is pretty good. Like in the middle of this like serious conversation that they're having, like a really good scene between these two characters. And then he makes this like comment that, oh yeah, this is really good, hot cocoa. And I was just like, was this necessary? So I guess I'm just kind of curious about like your take on that kind of thing. And how do you feel about that kind of writing? Where, obviously you want some levity maybe in a movie, but do you think there are times where like it's inappropriate or appropriate for that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem with that scene in particular. It felt to me like that was sort of the relationship between Clark and Lois, and it felt very like lived in to me. And like, I don't know, I've definitely had like arguments with my husband where in the middle I'll just like crack a joke and then go back.
Well, that's also because you all are really funny people.
Yeah, that we're talking about or whatever. So that to me just kind of felt like more of like a, they're in a relationship. They kind of know each other really well. They're having this talk, and he was like, "Oh, this is such a good drink. Thank you." The background joke, I did find the imp thing in the background kind of funny, especially because you'll get like little flashes of, Green Lantern hitting the dimensional imp with like a giant green bat and stuff like that in the background. It wasn't like a huge joke. It was kind of just like a background thing if you're like decided to pay attention. Some of the humor I would say worked better for me, and some of it, like some of the stuff with Jimmy and Eve Tessmacher, I felt bordered almost on mean. In terms of how he treated her, and I was like, oh, this Jimmy's kind of a jerk. I liked the Jimmy, and I've heard that they're like maybe playing around with like doing a Jimmy Olsen TV show, so we got to get some Flamebird in there.
Oh, you need to give me like you need to give me some setup to that.
But yeah, I thought that like some of the Jimmy stuff, like I got that it was a joke, and I did think it was like funny. But I thought it was mean funny, not always nice funny. That he was so mean to Eve Tessmacher, and had her in his phone as like weird toes or something like that.
No, like he said he called her mutant toes.
Mutant toes, yeah, and that he there's a point in the dialogue where I think Lois says something to him like how did you pull this beautiful woman? And she says something like, your hot girlfriend. He goes, hot? Like it hadn't occurred to him that she was hot, which is insane.
Okay. This was I'm just hold that thought.
Yeah.
This was like another metahuman question that I had, because I was like, am I not understanding the definition of hot anymore? Because he acted like Eve was not hot, but then all like the girls at the Daily Planet thought Jimmy Olsen was hot. And I was like, what is attractiveness?
Are we redefining?
And am I like being an awful person for asking that question? But I just started thinking like, what's the definition of beauty in this universe?
I think we just gotta assume Jimmy Olsen's got riz, as the kids say.
He's got a really nice car.
He knows what he's about.
He's saving up. He's got that YouTube channel.
He's a charismatic guy. He's always doing those articles where he does something new every week. So he's got interesting stories.
Mm-hmm.
I assume. I thought that the idea that Jimmy Olsen is like the heartthrob of the newsroom was actually very funny. I just thought that they played it a little mean. Like I think this version of Jimmy Olsen is a little bit of a jerk. I don't think that's controversial to say. But I thought that was like kind of an interesting take on Jimmy. Like Jimmy Olsen, ladies' man, is a very funny concept to me. He's James. He's a grown man.
He's the grown
man.
I will say there's a difference between this Jimmy Olsen and Makad Brooks. There's a very big difference.
And Makad Brooks, Jimmy Olsen, did not have this many girlfriends.
He did not. Well,
that we know of.
Cara,
Lena,
Lucy.
Lena. Never mind. He was punching well above his weight class as well. Yeah, the humor didn't really bother me, but I've seen like several James Gunn films, so I watched Peacemaker, and it's all, it's Peacemaker is much more extreme and like the humor being very off color. I thought that this really worked for Superman. I thought that I saw somebody in the chat say it, but like the important scenes weren't very jokey. And the emotion didn't screech to a halt because of a joke or anything like that, in my opinion. So I thought that the humor was used well. I didn't really have a problem with it.
I guess I did, because there was like an instance where Hawk Girl, and I guess we can kind of segue to talk about Hawk Girl if you want to. And I don't have a problem with Hawk Girl killing someone, because a Hawk Girl maybe in this universe is somebody who doesn't care whether or not she kills you or not.
Yeah.
But because not all DC characters have that moral thing about them. Some DC characters will kill you if they don't care.
Yeah.
But Hawk Girl drops the leader of Baravia, and I am to assume that she kills him because they talk about it.
He's
and
dead.
Then right as she drops him, it cuts to a joke where like something drops into Steve Lombard's drink. And that was a moment that sort of took me out of it, because that was another thing where it's like stakes don't matter in this story. Things don't actually matter in this universe, because you're not in the. This kind of goes back to my thinking about the Saturday morning cartoon kind of feel, where you're don't show them dying, because the kids can't handle it. And so I guess those kinds of things I was just kind of like, to me those kinds of elements of humor take away from any kind of like real stakes or real emotion in a scene. So for me, it didn't land. And that's kind of the issue that I have with these kinds of movies. And I realize they're not for me. And so I'm not trying to critique it in a harsh way, because not every movie is for me. Not every version of the DC universe is gonna be for me. And so I understand that. Some of it was just so like he kills Superman, or I guess maybe he doesn't. I don't know. We don't know. Superman throws Ultraman into a black hole, and then there's like a joke afterwards. And it's kind of like this, I don't know. It's just like lives don't seem to, like, I'm supposed to believe that like lives matter to Superman. And then like stuff like that happens. And I'm like, do they really? So again, this movie obviously didn't care to address that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I just kind of still struggle with that kind of thing. But I realize it's not that kind of movie. It doesn't want to be that kind of movie. So I just kind of have to, I guess, deal with it. But I just hope that, for me, I hope that the Supergirl movie actually has stakes and actually cares about making meaningful scenes under another director. I hope that's the case. So Hawk Girl, did you have any thoughts about Hawk Girl in the way she was portrayed?
I feel like I should because she was on Legends of Tomorrow for I want to say 2 seasons, but I could be wrong. It's been a while. Maybe 1 season. Kendra, I love you. I liked this version of Hawk Girl. I don't think we got a lot of her. So I don't think we got to know her super well. I have read since that she's going to pop up in Peacemaker season 2. So I think we'll see a little bit more of her there. She does not seem to care about killing, so that's interesting to know about her. She's a little bit looser with her moral code than Superman is. And I thought she was interesting. I thought she was fine. I wanted to see more of her, but there wasn't, an infinite amount of time to, spend with all of these characters. So I'm interested to see where they take that character in other projects. And I think it's interesting that of, all the DC characters that they wanted to introduce in this movie, that Hawk Girl was one of them. Not usually one of your, A tier characters. No offense, Hawk Girl. We love you. We love your coffee. But yeah, I was like, oh wow, okay, we're getting Hawk Girl. That's cool. So yeah, I think we got enough of her to be interested in her, but not enough to really, like, for me to really judge like what they're necessarily doing with her. We didn't hear much about her backstory. We didn't really get much about all that much of her personality. She just seems cool, and we don't really know a ton about her. I'm interested to see where they're going to take that character, if she's going to pop up in other projects. It seems like she is, but
yeah, I actually kind of like Hawk Girl, and I thought the actress who played her in this movie did a pretty good job, and I think the design choice for her is good. I like that she had the mace and all of that. It was kind of I had to adjust the fact that she actually had a caca when she fought. So I
think that they should. I think that they should keep that, and they should make it more louder and louder as it goes along.
So
sort of a flame bird effect, but
oh my gosh, I'm not prepared for it, even though I kind of knew that was coming. But yeah, so I actually, Hawk Girl was not a character I had any problems with. I liked her banter with Guy Gardner. I thought Nathan Fillion, he's been voicing Green Lantern for a long time now in animated things, and he's always wanted to play Green Lantern, so he finally gets to play Green Lantern in live action. And I thought he did a really good job as Guy Gardner, and he fully understands the Green Lantern mythology and the what the Green Lanterns are about. And so I actually thought he did a really good job. And his Guy Gardner was one of my favorite parts about the movie. And I think he really leaned into, Guy Gardner, he's a good Green Lantern, but he's kind of a jerk. He's kind of like a, he's still a good guy. He's still a hero, but he's kind of like the worst. But I thought his Green Lantern, like, I thought he was good. I liked the moment where he said something like, is the Big Blue, going to take over and, be a tyrannical figure or whatever he said, probably not. Like he understood that, like, that Superman probably wasn't that kind of guy. And so he was like going to treat him fairly. But then he also was like, but what if he is? And so I like that he was a kind of a leader, even though the Justice Gang is a stupid name. I agree with Hot Girl on that. But I actually liked those characters, even though they were mostly underdeveloped. But I thought Guy was one of the standouts for me in this movie. So I enjoyed him.
As has been well established, I don't care for a Green Lantern.
Not even for this one?
As a property, as a person.
As a concept.
As a concept. I don't get it. That said, I really did like him. I've liked Nathan Fillion in almost everything, going back to Firefly days, Brown Coat days.
Yeah.
And I thought he was great here. I thought the character was really fun. It was a different kind of lantern. I wasn't familiar, because I don't care for Green Lantern. I wasn't familiar with the character. So it was fun for me to get introduced to the character this way. I've seen a lot of people online be like, he was a great Guy Gardner. Like, this is very character correct. And I was like, sure, I'll take your word for it. So yeah, I liked him, I thought he did a really good job. I thought she did a really good job. She was also on like the last season that I abandoned of The Last of Us. So I feel like I think her name's Isabella Mercy or Mersal or something.
That's that. Yes, that sounds right.
I feel like she's having a real moment. She was really great, and Mr. Terrific was really great. I think he was the one of the Justice Gang that we saw the most of, and I thought that they did a really good job with him. And honestly, I wasn't very familiar with him as a character before this movie, and I really did come out of the movie being like, I gotta find out more about Mr. Terrific. I gotta see what he's got going on.
Yeah, I thought the guy who played him did a good job, and the way they utilized him. He actually was one of the characters who actually needed to be there. Some of these characters, it's one of those things that we talk about sometimes, like, if you remove this character from the story, does it change the story? If you remove Mr. Terrific from the story, it changes the story. He's very essential for things that happen in it. So he was a character who needed to be there.
I think he was billed like, fourth or fifth, honestly, when I was watching the credits, and like, well deserved. I think that character was about the fourth maybe most important person in the movie after Clark, Lois, and Lex. So I think that if you take Mr. Terrific out of the movie collapses upon itself, whereas some other characters you could kind of easily remove and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But I think that Mr. Terrific really did play a really big part, and I thought it made me more interested in like who he is, like what his backstory is, like, now I'm going to be like looking up, what Mr. Terrific is like in the comics and things like that. So I think as an introduction to a character I had honestly didn't have any familiarity with, I thought it was a really good introduction and a really interesting way of introducing the character and making you care about them.
Yeah, it literally would have collapsed if Mr. Terrific was not there. He's also in the Arrowverse, so he was on Arrow for a couple of seasons. So
Rachel says, spoiler, he is much less cool on Arrow.
Well, Arrow had a limited budget and not very good writers, but he is on Arrow if you want to see him in Arrow. He is the opposite of like some of the Daily Planet staff. I really liked seeing I think I have pictures of them somewhere. Like, I liked seeing Kat, I liked seeing Steve, I liked seeing Perry. I liked seeing all of these characters. I even thought it was cool that they included Ron Troop. The problem is, for me, Ron Troop said nothing, did nothing. Why was he there? Like, it's one of those things where I think James Gunn wanted that Daily Planet staff presence, and I think it's cool. It's the first time we've ever in a live action story of Superman to see like that main core Daily Planet staff together, and I think that's really cool. But it's also like, don't put a character in a movie and not have them do anything. I don't know if they like cut a scene that he's in or something.
It feels like there maybe was a version of this movie that had more Daily Planet presence that got chopped down to make it like a shorter movie. But yeah, it did. I wish we got more of the Daily Planet. We get a lot of Lois, obviously. We get a lot of Jimmy, but we don't get much of any of the other Daily Planet. I mean, like Cat Grant gets a couple lines, but she's kind of a non-entity. And we love Cat Grant here.
Yeah, oh, we are like the biggest Cat Grant fans.
Fans.
And we love Steve Lombard. To a degree.
We're big Steve boys here. The pod.
What are we, part of the Wolf Pack or something? Doesn't Steve have like a what is it called in My Adventures with Superman?
What was his catchphrase too? Was it like
nah?
Nah. We're part of the Nah Pack.
Like Steve had some lines, Cat had some lines, Perry had some lines, but some of the Easter eggs I thought were a little cringy because they had the whole thing with Jimmy and Perry where he was like, "Don't call me Chief," and that's an Easter egg to the Adventures of Superman from the 1950s, where I
was wondering what that was about. Honestly,
Jimmy called Perry Chief in that version of the story. In later versions of the story, they would be like, "Don't call me Chief." So Perry was saying, I was like, I get it. Stop, it's too much. But
it flew over my head. I just didn't know what it was why it was happening.
Well, the reason why I think it's kind of silly is it feels like a caricature. It feels like an Easter egg caricature. It doesn't feel like a real person saying things. But I liked seeing all the Daily Planet stuff. I just wish they had been utilized more, like have a reason for these characters to be there. I thought that was a little bit.
I mean, they utilized Jimmy well, but I wish they had a little bit more of a reason for, especially bigger characters like Cat or Perry. Like, as much as I love Steve Lombard, I feel like we had about as much Steve Lombard as I would have expected to be in this movie. Less Ron Troop than I expected, because I expected him to speak at some point. But I didn't have as much of an issue with those two characters being kind of sidelined, or Steve, in this case of Steve being comedic relief, which he often is. But I would have liked to see more Perry, because I feel like Perry is usually a very big character, and we didn't get very much of him in this one. And just personally, I would love to see more Cat Grant, because obviously we love Cat Grant here from Supergirl, the TV show, and she kind of doesn't really do much of anything in this one either. It'll be interesting to see if they really do a Jimmy spin-off TV show. I would assume that we will see much more of the Daily Planet crew.
I would like that, because I don't think you can sustain a TV show just on Jimmy Olsen.
He has had so many adventures, though, Rebecca. We can get the Newsboy Legion.
Oh, true.
Episode. We can get the Turtle Boy episode.
Well, oh my! If they don't do Turtle Boy on the Jimmy Olsen TV show, what are they even doing?
Turtle Boy.
But maybe they could utilize some of those characters on, and they could do it. If it was me, I would do a Jimmy Olsen show where it was like every episode was like his feature of the day, like he was like whatever, like from All-Star Superman, where he's like becoming a thing for a day.
I feel like I complain about that we don't have enough episodic TV where there's like an episode of the week or whatever. The Jimmy Olsen series could really bring this back, could bring this format into the 21st century. We could have Jimmy doing crazy stuff in every single episode, turning into Turtle, starting his own newspaper union or whatever.
Starting a YouTube channel. He could have a YouTube channel.
Exactly. He starts his new YouTube channel. He gets really into conspiracies. Flamebird.
I was ready that time.
Nice. Yeah, I think that would be fun, and it would give the Daily Planet, because I thought that the cast seemed really good.
Perfectly cast. I have no problems with the cast.
That's why I wanted to see more of them. I do agree with you. I was like, I wish we had time in this movie to like spend some more time with the Daily Planet crew. And I will say, unfortunately, this does seem to be something that was taken from All-Star Superman, because Clark Kent basically doesn't exist in All-Star Superman, and he barely exists in this movie.
Barely exists.
He's mostly just sort of a Superman figure in most of this movie, and he kind of pops in and out as Clark, but we don't really see him with the Daily Planet crew. And I do believe I buy that this Daily Planet crew would not see him for a month, and then he'd come back and be like, I got stuck in a bathroom reading Shakespeare, eating turkey sandwiches, and they'd be like, yeah, sure, checks out.
Which brings up a good point, and I know we probably should wrap up soon, so we'll kind of go through some of these points pretty quickly. But now that you bring that up about how there's so little Clark Kent, it's interesting that this movie tries to make it about his humanity and like his Earth family, and like his big speech about, I'm a human like everybody else, and I put my pants on one leg at a time, or whatever he says. And it's like he's doing all of that as Superman, not as Clark Kent. And so I guess I would have found it more interesting he probably couldn't give that speech as Clark Kent. He would have to do it as Superman with Lex Luthor. But the fact that they tried to make it about Superman's humanity, but then barely showing Superman's humanity, is kind of an interesting thing there. So I guess maybe that also kind of plays into why, now that I'm like thinking through it, maybe it would have helped me get to that ending a little more if there had been more Clark Kent.
I think we mostly see Clark or his Superman's humanity, or Clark's humanity, through his relationship with Lois, and not so much through his like relationships with his like work family or anything that. Or maybe even like through his relationships with like his friends at like the Justice Gang. Like he does have these relationships with people and humanity, but it's not necessarily like the duality that we sometimes see, where it's like, Clark going into the office and like working on something with the Daily Planet gang and then like running off. So it is a more, I would say though, it's definitely like a more Superman heavy story.
Yeah, and I guess they tried to show his humanity through that guy who like helps him up, and then he gets shot and killed by Lex Luthor. But I was like, this is kind of a Kelly situation, where it's like this character you meet for 5 seconds and then they die, and you're supposed to like really care about them.
They should have taken out Steve Lombard.
Make it count. Make it mean something.
What if it was Kelly that got killed, and it was like, how does this keep happening to her?
That's Kelly's whole mythology. She's like Kenny from South Park. She just like shows up in a story and dies.
Not again.
So I think that would have really helped me maybe a little bit if there was more of an emphasis on Clark Kent. Morgan, do you have anything else you want to say before I kind of get into I guess the only things we haven't really I guess we talked about Crypto a little bit. I did like Crypto playing with the cows at the Kent's house. I thought that was fun. So the only qualms I have about Crypto plays into like the humor thing, where it like the opening scene is like Superman beat up, and like I guess I'm supposed to care, but then like I don't care, because like it obviously doesn't matter to the writing, because Crypto like is jumping on him and it's supposed to like be played for laughs. So that's the only problem I have with Crypto. But other than that, I thought the CGI on Crypto was very good. I thought him flying and using his powers was very good. I thought his relationship with Supergirl was good. So I have Crypto, I have relatively no issues.
Crypto was perfect to me.
In every way.
In every way. I personally love that he was a bad dog. And he was trying so hard, because I've had many bad family dogs, and I love them so much. But sometimes you're just like, oh my God, you're joking me. And like him eating all of Mr. T's like tea spears, which then like later on in the battle with Ultraman when he starts eating all the cameras, which allows Clark to, Superman to have that battle without all of the, like you said, the esports people in the background. Or some of the other things that Krypto did, like you mentioned, him jumping on Superman when he's hurt, feels like a very thing like that my cats would do to me if I was if I was like in trouble and I'd be like, Beaker, help me, and he would just jump on my face or something. So as somebody who's had many good boys who aren't that good, I thought it was really cute. I thought Krypto was a great character, and was such a good, compelling character. I read something that like after the movie there was like huge spikes in people wanting to adopt dogs, which I thought was adorable. You should definitely get yourself a good and or bad boy. But yeah, I thought Krypto was really well done, and there was only a couple of times when I was like, well, that's not a real dog. I thought for the most part, I thought that the CGI was really good. I didn't get the uncanny valley, but there was like one or two times when I definitely, it wasn't as bad as, I will say, after last week, we went to see the new Fantastic Four movie. The baby in that movie is CGI.
Why?
Thank you. I don't know.
You could just get a real baby.
You could just get a real baby and just film them for just a little bit of time. But that's not the way they went. And so the baby, I felt like at some points was like looking into my soul.
That's
and I was terrified. But I never was that afraid of Krypto. And so I will give them props for good CGI on that. He was a very cute CGI dog. And he did not give me nightmares like the Fantastic Four baby.
I understand that dogs can be unruly sometimes and jump on you when you don't want to. But then I've also seen videos of dogs detecting cancer in their humans, and also dogs helping people when they've had like strokes or like seizures and stuff.
Yeah, like dogs. Dogs are great. I think that the point is that
so a super dog should at least be able to be that heroic when a regular dog can like sense a seizure in someone.
So I think Krypto is very heroic. He just sometimes doesn't know what he should or shouldn't be doing. And that felt to me very correct in terms of like, I'm about to go dog sit for my mom's dog for a week. And I love him so much, but man, he barks all the time. And I was like, if this dog isn't kind of like a Ralphie, like, I don't know what is. I like that Krypto is very, very useful and very good boy, but sometimes he's just going to destroy all your technology because it looks like a ball.
Yeah, well, at least that came into play. That had a reason to be. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss that we haven't already before we wrap it up here?
I think we got most of it. I want to give big props one more time to Lois Lane, who is the greatest.
She was. If you go just for Supergirl, but then also in addition,
Lois Lane's also there, so you get sort of a 2-for-1
while you're there. For Lois Lane. Yeah. I did think Lois Lane was great. The only thing I will say before I wrap up kind of my thoughts on this is that I do have some filmmaking critiques. Not that I've ever made a film, but I do have a degree in television broadcast production. I've done broadcast production for 25 years now. I'm a full-time video editor. I shoot and create my own video content. So I know something about shooting video, editing video, some design stuff. And so I kind of come from that perspective. The beginning of a film, I think did Bunsen hear us talking about Krypto and popped up?
He did. He was like, I just want everybody to remember that cats are better than dogs in every way. And that I specifically am better than that stuffed animal. Oh, of course you are, Bunsen.
Giving all the love to the stuffed animal instead of the real thing.
He's like, first off, how dare you, streaky fans represent
this? Not CGI. Not a CGI.
No,
cat.
he is a real cat, as you can see. he's like, stop doing that.
Stop making me on camera.
Stop.
But I mention all of this the beginning of the movie, I had a hard time getting into because the first like 15, 20 seconds is like blocks of text. There's like six blocks of text that you have to read. White text over shots of snow. And I was like, who made this choice to put white text on footage of snow, which is also white? Either add an outline on this text or change the color of it. It was almost unreadable. It had no contrast. If someone had a hard time reading things without contrast, they wouldn't be able to see it. It was difficult to read. I should not have to go to a movie and then immediately read things. I went to go see a movie. I did not want to read a book. So I have a really big problem.
What about a Star Wars? What if you went to see a Star Wars?
A Star Wars, the reason why there is a crawl is because it's an homage to the serials of Flash Gordon, which had that style. So it's homaging a style from an earlier thing. There's a reason that exists. Plus, a Star Wars crawl has good contrast. It's like yellow or orange on black. It's very readable, easy to read and understand. What they did at the beginning of the Superman movie looked like someone had just learned how to use Premiere and put some text on, like just figured out how to add text on the screen. So I do have a critique on that it was difficult to read. I shouldn't have to read expositional text at the very beginning of a movie. And so I thought that was a really bad choice, personally. It was a lot to kind of have to consume right at the beginning of the movie. So I did want to mention that because that was one of my biggest gripes of the movie was why make that choice. But other than that, I will say one of the things that I did like that we kind of didn't talk about that probably nobody would talk about is that in the end credits, I thought you would enjoy this, Morgan. Damon Lindelof got a thank you.
What?
Yeah, Damon Lindelof got a thank you.
What did he do?
He has written a Superman comic before, I believe.
Oh.
I want to say Damon Lindelof wrote the very controversial issue in maybe Action Comics 1000 where Superman gives up his American citizenship. I think Damon wrote that one. So maybe it was when they were recognizing some of the comic book creators, they may have mentioned Damon in there, but I saw his name in there.
Or maybe the next movie, They Crashed on an Island.
Now that's how you get me to go see another version of this Superman.
It's not Penny's boat. What?
That's how you get me. I probably
just when Rebecca thought she was out, we reel her back in.
What? There's a smoke monster that Superman has to fight?
How will he fight the smoke monster?
So I probably would not have gone to see a sequel of this version of Superman, but you put him on a magical island with a smoke
Superman, lost. I don't know.
It's a game changer. It would change the game for me.
We're just pitching some stuff. We're just pitching it.
Now, Nicholas holds Lex Luthor on a magical island. I could maybe be into that.
Amazing. I just imagine him like turning coconuts into like a little like
he would definitely be tearing his jeans and shorts.
Yes, he's like, finally, it's too hot, and then he makes the shorts. We get the origin story of the short.
He would then have to turn into like Locke. I think
yes,
he would be like the Locke character. Yeah.
Don't tell me what I can't
do. That is a version of this take on Superman I could really be into. I also did. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I see a question in the chat that said, what do you think about the rumor that they were going to show the days of the week on screen in Superman?
I think that could have made sense given the enormous amounts of text at the beginning of the movie, that could have been a thing, because they said something like 300 years ago, then like 3 years ago, and then like 3 hours ago, and then like 3 minutes ago. So there was like this time thing that they were doing at the beginning with the text. So I could see if they had planned out the movie to like eventually like in certain segments being like, okay, this happens at this time of the day, or this happens at this time. Like I could see it if they chose to put intervals of time throughout the movie.
I think somebody says, Sean in the the chat says it wasn't a rumor, they changed it.
Yeah.
I think I've seen like pictures where it's like there was like Monday or like Tuesday across, or like the days of the week basically, as like big text in certain sections of the movie. I think that would have worked for me. I think it would have. Superman, the All-Star Superman did that in a couple of the issues where it told you like specific times, although it was confusing.
It was a little hard to follow.
And it made my brain hurt. So I hope it would be easier to follow than that. But yeah, I don't think that would have like changed anything for me one way or the other.
I think for me, it would have given it a little style. Like it would have given this movie a little bit of style, and I would have enjoyed that, even if it was hard to follow. I would have been like, "Oh, you're at least making a choice with this."
Yeah, Sean in the chat said the film was supposed to be like Pulp Fiction, basically a week in the life of Superman. I do think that I kind of wish that they had kept it in, honestly, because I think that would have been a fun like stylistic choice. And I don't think it would have taken anything from the movie. So.
I just need like an outline of the text or like a drop shadow or something. I just need them to put something to add some contrast.
To be a little bit more readable.
I just need you to make this legible on the video, please. It does seem like the test audiences hated that, though. It probably was hard to follow, is my guess. The reason why they didn't like it, it was probably a lot to keep up with.
What day of the week they were on.
But I think it would have added a little style to it. Okay, so Morgan, we've gone a long time. We're gonna have to scrap feedback until next week, so we can maybe, if there's something we didn't get to, maybe we could talk about some stuff next time. But overall thoughts on this. Kind of where are you sitting with the Superman movie?
I just realized I forgot to mention Metamorpho.
We didn't talk much about
ups to my boy Metamorpho.
An actual metahuman.
An actual metahuman. We got one. Again, I'm also not that familiar with him as a character in the comics, but I really liked him in the movie, and I'm familiar with the actor from the TV show Barry, which I have yet to finish, but will one day. So I thought he was great. And yeah, I liked Metamorpho. I'm glad that they included him in it. I just realized that we talked about basically every other character, but we didn't give my boy Metamorpho the props he deserves.
Yeah, I think we kind of glossed over like the fact that he created kryptonite. I had a lot of questions on how he created sunlight, though. That seemed
he's.
I feel like that was a real stretch. I get that,
yeah,
like he created kryptonite, but the sun.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know about that.
It's comic book logic, and they didn't ask me to go down any kind of crazy rabbit holes with it, like sometimes All-Star Superman did, where it was like, hold on, here's the comic book science, and I was like, no. I don't want it, actually. So he was just like, I think I can create a sun. I was like, I believe you can too. Believe in yourself, Metamorpho.
Yeah, I think Metamorpho is an interesting character, and I think that he looked like Metamorpho from the comics, and I thought the performance was good. All these performances were good. Although Superman yelled a lot. I was like, why is he yelling everything? Why didn't David Corenswet like go to Juilliard? If I had been James Gunn on the set, I would have been like, okay, David, that was great. The yelling was great. Let's maybe try it another way this time. Let's maybe try something else besides yelling. You went to Juilliard, you studied acting. So other than the Superman yells a lot critique, I thought the performances were all fine. They were all good. I had no problems with the cast. And so I think even that goes down to Metamorpho. I believed he was Metamorpho, and except for the creating the sun or whatever, but I believed what he was doing. So I thought all the performances were good.
Mind the Gap says Metamorpho was kind of different. In the comics, he is more of a world traveler adventurer. And Comrade Remus says, in the comics, Metamorpho cannot create kryptonite. So some interesting differences that, as a person who doesn't know much about Metamorpho,
I didn't know that.
Same to me.
I didn't know that either. I know he's kind of like the element man, like he can create elements. So that's good to know that he couldn't create kryptonite. That seems like a real what's it called in Hitchcock movies, a MacGuffin, or something like that. Like, just or a Deus Ex Machina. Is that the same? Am I using all those terms incorrectly? Like very convenient.
Yeah,
a very convenient thing in your storytelling that he can create kryptonite. How convenient.
I mean, to be fair though, it was like it was an interesting way to introduce that character. It's like at least he had a reason to be in the movie other than it's like, hey, it's Metamorpho. It's like, well, no, he can create kryptonite, even if maybe in the comics he can't. I mean, if the character can create anything out of anything, then I buy that he can create kryptonite. Again, it's like comic book logic, and they're not asking me to like go down some like deep comic lore science thing where it's like, I don't think any of that makes sense. It wasn't like that one season of Supergirl where we were trying to figure out all the totems and we were just like, you know what, never mind.
This is an unanswerable question. We cannot get here.
We've painted ourselves into a corner.
No one can solve this.
By trying to understand what you have written. That was on us for trying to follow it. So like it made sense to me, and like I didn't have to go too deep down a rabbit hole, so I accept it.
Yeah, I think for me that worked. It wasn't too big of an issue. So I was at least glad he did, to your point, have a reason to be there.
And Dora in the chat says sunlight comes from nuclear fusion, so it's a stretch on his powers comic wise.
That was the only thing I was like, I could buy him creating kryptonite. The sunlight, though.
The sunlight is like was a little different. Step too far.
And then that also goes, okay, we could talk about this movie for a long time, and we have talked about it for a long time, but like I'm supposed to buy that Metamorpho can create sunlight, and immediately Superman is able to punch through a glass wall in a pocket universe. But when he fights Ultraman and gets beat up, he is required a concentrated dose of sunlight, like actual sunlight, real sunlight, with the Superman robots. And he also, in another instance, has to take like a day of rest at the Kent farm to recover from the sunlight.
I was about to say, I mean, to be fair, after that whole thing in the pocket universe, he is pretty messed up and he does need to sleep it off. So I feel like it's one of those things where it's like adrenaline to get through the situation.
Though. He had his
power, he has his powers. He's just kind of like beat up a little bit, I think. He just needs to sleep it off.
There's an inconsistency with some of this stuff where I'm like, okay, if you want to change it, just make a choice and stay with it. Keep the rules of the universe the same. And then I'll be able to buy it. Okay, well, we have gone long. I kind of figured we would go long. Quick.
Everybody wanted the 3-hour version of this, right?
Okay, really quick. What overall thoughts? Would you watch it again? Would you recommend it to people? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really good. My husband said, he was like, I think this might be my favorite comic book movie. I was like, oh, high praise. I really enjoyed it. I did see it twice in the theater, and not entirely for the popcorn, though a bit of, or the merch. But some of it was. I thought the performances were good. I really liked David Corenswet. I really liked Rachel Brosnahan. I thought that they had great chemistry. I really believe they're Clark and Lois. I thought that scene that they have where it's just like the interview scene, I thought that was like the best scene in the movie. I think anytime you put the two of them into a scene together, they're like really, really good. This one just really worked for me. I really liked the movie. I thought it was a good take on Superman. I really liked this version of Superman. It made me excited for the Supergirl movie. Obviously, I loved the Supergirl cameo. I loved Crypto. It made me really excited for what they're going to do with Women of Tomorrow, even if they won't call the stupid movie that. We know it's based off of. overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I had a good time. I would definitely recommend it to people who are Superman fans or, comic book movie fans. I think it was a little bit more comic booky, but that's not necessarily an issue with me, especially for a Superman story. I think, they don't always have to be like super grounded in reality. I feel like for Batman, usually that's kind of a little bit more of what I'm expecting. But for Superman, yeah, I like that we got a little bit bigger with the storytelling. And I going into the movie was like, I feel like there's going to be a little too many characters in this one, because I saw that they were bringing in Green Lantern. I was like, this guy.
Anybody but Green Lantern.
Anybody but Green Lantern. And they were bringing in other like superhero characters. And honestly, I thought that they were used pretty well. I didn't have an issue with them being in the story. I didn't have an issue with it feeling too overstuffed. I wish there was like a little bit more time for like the Daily Planet crew. But yeah, I thought that overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I would definitely watch it again.
I think this proves that we don't always agree with each other.
It's true.
And so if anybody says we never disagree, sometimes we do. But I hope that I have been at least respectful of your like of the movie. I have had to deal with 12 years of people making fun of me and saying bad things about me because I liked a Superman movie they did not like. So I don't want to be that person. So I hope I was not that person. But for me, this is kind of a throwaway movie for me. Like, this is not a movie that like 5 years down the road I'm going to watch again. It's just, for me, I want a little more substance from a film. I want something that has a little more style to it. I think the design of the world is really good, and I don't mind the comic booky style. I think it's actually a refreshing change of pace for Superman movies, that it's kind of set in a more comic booky world that looks comic booky. I actually have I thought that was actually great. But for me, in terms of just the substance of it and connecting to the characters, for me, I don't think it's a movie that's gonna, 10 years down the line, I'm going to be like, oh, I can't, like, I still watch Back to the Future many times.
That's a great movie.
Tell you how many times I've watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Breakfast Club.
There are movies that I'll watch, once a year and down on the line. But for me, this is not a movie that I think is going to be something that I'm going to want to revisit. But I hope that people who enjoy it love it and get a big kick out of it and watch it as much as they can. I think just for me, this is not the kind of movie that I enjoy. And it's just not something that works for me in terms of the filmmaking aspect of it. Just because I want things to matter more. I want things to have stakes to it and have meaning. And for me, I didn't find as much meaning in it as I would have liked. Although I was trying to go in low expectations, not have a lot of high expectations. But there were some things I liked, but mostly things I struggled with. But I hope that people enjoy it, and I hope that it gets people excited about Supergirl. And I think that it has accomplished that. So
I think so. And I realized that the last thing I probably wanted to say about like my thing, what I liked about the movie is I did like the message that like kindness is punk rock thing. I really did like that, because I do feel like we're just sort of in an area where like people aren't that nice right now, and also maybe haven't been that nice for a while. And just the idea that like to be kind is kind of radical, I think is actually an interesting perspective to take. And especially with a character like Superman, of him being like, no, it is important to be kind, and it is radical to be kind. And I did like that message in the movie as well.
I think it's a nice idea. But I also think that this is going to sound harsh. If you needed a Superman movie to tell you to be kind, you probably weren't a kind person to begin with.
But there's so many people who suck so bad, Rebecca. If Superman can just make one person be like, "I'll be less of a jerk today," I mean, that's all I need. That's all I need out there in the world when you're just like trying to get your coffee and everyone's terrible. If he changed one person into a nicer person, I will take it.
Because
we're in dire straits right now.
I will tell you, I am preparing myself in case I do get put on one of these Superman panels at DragonCon. I'm preparing myself to have disagreements with people over Superman movies. And I can almost guarantee you that the people who hated Zack Snyder movies but liked this movie are going to say awful things about me and then claim that kindness is the new punk rock. And so I find that really hypocritical. But I guess it's a good message to aim for. I
hope that they take the message of the movie and they think, what would Superman do? Would he be a jerk in this instance? And they heroically aren't a jerk. Although having met most people, I will say I would not hold out high hopes for this.
What would Superman do? He would fly a guy out into the desert and torture and threaten him.
To be fair, that guy was a dictator, so I'm not losing any sleep over that. But
Girl did kill him and get rid of him, so I guess really that
takes care of that problem. Team Hawk Girl. But yeah, no, I hopefully you have a good experience.
Well, I'm just
conventions.
I have people don't understand that just by liking a Superman movie, I have had people call me names, have said awful things to me. I've seen awful things being said on the internet. So I understand the idea of wanting people to be kind, but it's been my experience that the people who claim that they are kind are the ones who are not kind. And so I find it to be a little bit of a superficial message, because I guarantee you the people who are sharing memes about kindness is the new punk rock are going to be tweeting all this stuff about, I hate these people. I hate this group of people. I hate the things that they're doing and blah, blah, blah. I hate. And so I think the message is going to go in one ear and out the other. Like it's going to live in a meme for like a day and then it's going to leave. I don't have faith.
There's
no longevity for that message.
People are going to take the message. I mean, look at the world. It's not happening. But I like to imagine while I'm in there, just for a second, that like we're all going to go out there. We're all going to save a squirrel, right? Like we're all just going to be nicer to each other. It's not going to happen. But I like to imagine, I like to believe in a world where it could. I see Dora says the greatest convos happen when you disagree on fun topics. So it was great to watch you guys disagree. Thank you, Dora.
I always try to set an example on how to disagree. So thank you, Morgan, for allowing me the chance to voice my opinions.
No problem. We're not gonna like every. Let's be honest. Not every movie is gonna be buttons.
This is true. Not everyone is just gonna knock it out of the park.
They can't all be buttons, can they? Which we absolutely agreed on. Greatest film of all time.
If you've never watched or listened to our episode on Buttons, the Christmas movie or whatever it was called, you should
the greatest Christmas story ever told or whatever it was.
I will say one thing before I leave my thoughts. I did like some of the use of flying with the Superman. You mentioned the squirrel when he saves the squirrel. The way he kind of hovers in and then sort of like he comes in fast and slows down. I thought that was like a really good use of his flight power. So there were some instances where I was like, okay, that I liked. That was cool. So I just wanted to mention that with all the haterade I was spewing all over this movie, there are things that I did like. So I wanted to mention some of that, even if
you're like, it was cool when he flew sometimes.
Anyway, okay,
amazing.
We have talked for 3 hours, and I'm so sorry for the people who've stuck around.
You're welcome.
Or you're welcome that we had this lengthy discussion about it. But thank you, Morgan, for spending so much time with me to discuss it. I think we had a lot to unpack.
This is fun.
And we did have some emails of people who shared their thoughts, so we'll get to those next week. Unfortunately, we just
and
don't
I
have
think
the time.
what we've done is we've given you time. If you
Yes.
listen to this and you have thoughts and feelings that you want to share, go ahead and send those in. Email them to us, or
Supergirl Radio
DM us.
gmail.com.
And then we can read it next week on the pod. We've just given you some time to muddle over your own thoughts. It's not that we went too long. It's that we did this on purpose.
This episode is about our thoughts. Next episode could be about your thoughts.
Exactly.
So please share your thoughts with us. And that's a great segue to say that that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you want to contact us, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast and Multiverse of Color Network, so definitely go check those out and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You can hang out with us as we go live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, just like we did tonight on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel. And DC TV Podcast also has a T Public store. So if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnet tote bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the T Public store link at the top of the page.
And since the new Superman movie is coming up and also came out already.
Oh, sorry. I left it in there because it was the same thing. I'm so sorry.
If you haven't seen it yet, though, it is still coming up for you if you haven't seen it.
It's coming up on, is it HBO Max?
Eddie, the way that these movies have been coming out, it'll be on HBO Max any day now.
So it will be coming up if you haven't seen it yet on streaming.
That's true. And we talked a lot about HBO Max, so you're well informed about it. But we have some designs in the DC TV Podcast T Public store that will let people know that you went to the theater not only for Superman, not just for Superman, but in fact, just for Supergirl. You're just here for Supergirl. And now you know she's in it, which is great.
So fun fact, the first time I tried to go see the movie when the theater, my local theater, was having all the water problems, I was talking to the people who were telling me that the theater was closed. And I said, I know this probably sounds stupid to you, but I have to see this movie. I have to review it in 2 days. So you have to let me see this. And I said, I do this podcast that I've been doing with a friend of mine for 10 years. And it was 2 employees and they were like, "What's your podcast?" And I was like, "Well, Supergirl Radio." And so I was about to leave and they went back into the building. And then a couple of seconds later, the guy comes back out. He's running to chase me down. And he was like, "Are you on Spotify?" It was so funny.
And they're listening right now.
Shout out to the people at my local movie theater. I hope all your problems are fixed because I really want to come to the theater again because it's so close to my house.
Get recliner seats.
But you need to get some recliner seats. That's the downside. But yeah, it was really funny. It was like, "Are you on Spotify?" And I was like, "We're on all the things. We're everywhere." So even though I didn't get to go see the movie at that theater, maybe we got some Supergirl Radio listeners out of that. So yeah, it was a funny little moment. We would also like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Majuba, Annie, Rachel, and Kit. If you would like to become a legion of super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. You can find me on several places. I am on Vero, which is my favorite social media platform, at Derby Kid. You can follow me on Instagram at the Derby Kid. I also have a YouTube channel at youtube.com/DougMcProd. I do have some content from my recent trip to England that I need to post on the social media platform. Well, Instagram, X, Facebook, and YouTube at Oasis Broom. So if you want to follow travel things there, I should hopefully within the next weekend or week have some England stuff coming up. I had a lot of fun taking pictures this time in England. So we'll be posting some of that content. So you can follow me on those places.
That's exciting. You can find me on the internet at Mojostastic. And you can also find me as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast. We have taken a little bit of a break, so I'm actually really rusty on podcasting. But we should be getting back to it pretty soon. We have not just figured out what our next topic of discussion is going to be. So now is actually a great time for you to catch up on the Legendary Ladies podcast, which you can find at the Legendary Ladies on YouTube and Instagram, and at legends_podcast on Twitter.
So very cool. Thank you for sharing about your stuff. And I did realize we did have a super chat that we did not get to. So that is on us. We got too into talking about the movie. So David says, I thought David, I don't know if this is David Corenswet, or is he but David Kaplan says David Corenswet was great, but in the why is David Corenswet, why does that sound weird? Is that right?
That is right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just,
for some reason, like for a split second, I was like, wait, is that his name? I was like blanking on it.
I had that same thing earlier with Isabella, the Hawk Girl actress, and I was like, can't remember her name, can't remember her last name. What's happening? What is reality?
It was like that time I forgot Judy Garland's name. I was like, what is her name? What is happening?
What if this is what was it?
Carmina Burana.
Carmina Burana.
But David says David was great but in the wrong movie. I thought he was quintessential Superman, but everything around him was wrong. So thank you for sharing that thought. We'll try to do a little bit better job. We were just kind of taking such a long time reviewing the movie that we didn't get into the chat as much as we wanted to on this one. But definitely,
thanks everybody who joined us in the chat. We had a kind of a hop in chat, so we probably missed a lot of good comments while we were going along in this 3-hour journey.
Yeah, so sorry that we didn't get to hop in and share everybody's thoughts, but hopefully you all got to hang out with each other and share thoughts that way. So thanks for being in the chat with us. That's the advantage of watching live on Tuesday nights, live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern.
You can be here when you can be in the room where it happens.
You can be part of our little Supergirl Radio community that is always very good at sharing thoughts and being respectful in the chat. So hopefully you found that to be the case. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon here with Crypto. And we're still just here for Supergirl and looking out for the summer of Supergirl in 2026.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that. So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!